Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first meeting for the WECM leadership team here in Austin at the coordinating boardroom. I'm the chair of the current chair of the WECM leadership committee. My name is Rafael Brisita. We're going to go around the room and introduce everybody that's part of the committee. So we'll start here on the left with Faye.
Faye Murphy, project staff.
Deana Savage, Midland College.
Jeff Park, San Jacinto College.
Joyce Williams, Dallas County Community College District.
Kristin Walker, TACE, Texas Administrators of Continuing Education.
Don Perry, Chair-elect.
I'm Duane Hiller, Coordinating Board Program Director.
Robin Garrett, Lone Star College, past chair.
Catherine O'Brien, San Jacinto College.
Kirk White, Houston Community College.
Steve Davis, Grayson College.
Terry Nix, Howard College.
Dana Watson, Central Texas College.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and look at the minutes before we proceed. The minutes were sent out electronically to all the members of the committee. So we will go ahead and have someone make a motion to get the minutes approved from the last August 7th meeting that the WECM Leadership Committee met here in Austin at the Austin Community College Center.
Mr. Chair, I've reviewed the minutes from the last meeting, and I saw nothing that needed to be corrected or changed. Therefore, I make a motion for approval as presented.
I second.
Okay.
Joyce Williams, second the motion. Don Perry made the motion. Minutes will be approved. Do we have a vote?
I need to make an amendment. Mine shows that I was absent at that meeting and I was actually present. My apologies for not catching that.
That correction will be made.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes will be posted as with the change that was recommended by Terry. So let's go on to the next item on our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I just found out my microphone was off a few minutes ago. I'm Deana Savage from Midland College.
Thank you, Deana. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the elections of vacant positions or re-election of members that are on the committee. So we are going to take a break to have a discussion. We're going to go into executive session. Those members that are up for re-election would need to leave the room, and I'll let you know who those members are that need to go ahead and leave the room. Kirk White.
Bye.
Deana Savage, Steve Davis, Catherine O'Brien. And I believe that's everybody that's here present. Anybody else on the list?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. All righty. So we'll go ahead and start the discussion. Currently serving. We went over membership number 2, number 3, number 4, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, and we discussed briefly the fiscal agent, the change from Midland College over to San Jacinto College, and finally member number 11. So a brief synopsis of what went on. Member number 2, we had a recommendation for Juan Garcia from TSTC to serve 1 year of the remaining of that position, and he was approved by the committee. Member number 3 was Duane Shaw, and again, he was from Blinn College.
Kilgore.
Kilgore College. He was also approved for member number 3 for a 1-year term. Member number 4 is a 2-year term, and that was Joe Garcia from Tarrant County Community College District. Member number 7 was Cindy Griffith, and she is from Blinn College. And she was also approved.
For a 1-year term.
For a 1-year term. Member number 8 was returning another 2-year term for Kirk White. He was approved. Member number 9 was a vacant position that was previously held by Gary Tomerlin, and now we have Deana Savage as a member at large, member number 9. She was also approved. And member number 10 was, again, another renewal of Steve Davis from Grayson College, and he was also approved. And finally, member number 11, which is an ex officio position, Catherine O'Brien was approved as an ex officio member for a 2-year period. So I want to thank the executive committee that did the preliminary work to find qualified people from across the state, from various institutions, different regions of the state to represent the WECM leadership. Again, the executive committee is made up of the current chair, which is myself, the chair-elect, which is Don Perry, the previous chair, which is Robin. We had Duane from the coordinating board, and the fiscal agent, which is Jeff Parks. So I want to thank the members of the executive committee for all the work that was done. It did take us a little bit of time to go out and find quality people. The process was very transparent, and I think we're going to have a great remainder of the year with this makeup with this committee. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 3 in our agenda, which is the coordinating board report and the database update, and I'm sure Duane is going to be providing that information for us.
Just very briefly, as you all know, we moved to live day. The WECM changes were made live in September, and as with all new computer database systems, we're still working out some bugs, but it basically is live, and it's on the search WECM link to get to the WECM website, and we're going through comments and suggestions. We had a problem with compatibility with browsers, but we've resolved that, and then we still have some problems with the summary reports of the workshop results, but we're still working on getting those ready. But the WECM database is live, and it is functional.
Well, I want to thank you, Duane, personally and specifically, for the work that you've done over a number of years, especially working with the coordinating board staff who were involved in the actual programming. And quite honestly, I am very impressed with the product.
Thank you.
I think especially for the folks out in the field who maybe are not as frequent a user of a search engine like the WECM, the way it's set up, and in some ways it has some mirrors now to how the ACGM looks in terms of its screen look and the feel of it, and the capability to do the searching and the reports. But it sure has made life easier for those of us who are in leadership positions and have to assist, but also to our faculty who go out there and do these kinds of searches. I know that I've heard a few people ask a question. I think we, maybe in the leadership committee, understand this, but for those who might watch this at some point in time, it might be helpful for them to understand a little bit more about how the course history is going to look. Duane, could you just kind of give a brief presentation on that?
Okay. Basically, when you look at a WECM course and you see the description, there will be a link at the bottom of the page that will take you to a previous version of that course, just so that you can have an archive history of changes that have been made to that course over time. And so if you have somebody with a transcript and they took a course 5 years ago and you want to see what was taught in that course at that time, you can look at in the history records and see the archived version of that course.
And this, in fact, was a recommendation of a special work group, task group from the Leadership Committee a number of years ago, actually, when we started talking about changes to the WECM database. Just for clarification, though, when we switched over to this new database, we're actually starting from here forward for that history. Is that correct?
That's right. And so these changes won't be apparent until probably the next round of WECM revisions, or WECM course revisions.
Yeah. Thank you, Duane.
Duane, because archive courses are tied to funding, and so we found a few glitches in the new database regarding archive courses. Usually I would not bring it up because Don has done such a good job, but because of the fact that archive courses are tied to funding, would you kind of go through just a small amount of information on those glitches that are there, that are existing, that are regarding archive courses?
Sure.
As people are now looking at the search and pulling those courses down, there is a glitch for archive courses that I think this leadership needs to know about. So as you're working with your faculty, you can help them understand as they're looking at courses, especially
Right.
now that we're reducing reducing degrees to 60 hours. There may be a little bit of confusion of what's really archived and not archived.
Okay, yeah, and the conversion of from the old database to the new, whenever the program found that one course number was archived, it flagged the entire course as archived. And so in this case, you would do a search on archived courses, and you would find that course number in that search. I would encourage you is, we are working on fixing so that the course will show up as active. Active is the status that shows that the course is funded at this time. So we also have another browser screen, which is the actual course inventory, which is from the Texas Higher Ed data site. If you go to course and program inventories and look under the WECM, if you check in that site, it'll show the active status of the actual course. So if you have a confusion about if it shows up as archived in the WECM search, but it shows as active in the Texas Higher Ed data site, of course, call me and let me know, and I'll try to resolve that. But in most cases, those are active courses that are just mistakenly marked as archived in the WECM database.
Very good point, Joyce. Thank you for.
I'm still a little confused about what's happening.
Okay, one version, as we do the workshop, sometimes due to frequency use, we may actually archive one version of a course. And the way the new database is set up, it lists the course and all of the versions within that. So when you click on archive courses, what happens is you get
the whole thing's gone.
It shows all of those versions archived when it's really only one. So as you're looking at it and you're looking at your courses within your degree plan, all of a sudden you think, oh my gosh, this course has been archived, when it really has not.
So, for example, if we had a 2 and a 3 credit hour, and we were changing from 3 to 4, and that 2 was archived.
Yes.
That the whole set looks like it's been archived, but it's not really.
Yes.
Because that's really the only time we would archive just a version, correct? We typically
I saw an example of that with a CE course being archived, and the semester credit hour course wasn't archived, but it was showing that the whole menu of courses were archived.
But usually when we do archive, we archive a whole course, don't we? Except for what I just...
Versions.
Sometimes.
Typically, semester credit hour ranges when we change those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's the confusion, especially when people are looking at bringing their courses, their degree plans into 60 hours, within the 60-hour range, and or looking at changing courses within that. The courses really are not archived. So that has been the remedy, and it's been a great remedy. Thank you for that solution, Duane.
Any other comments or questions for Duane regarding the database? I'm pretty sure everybody's been in there. I enjoyed using it. It's really nice when you get the whole menu of courses in front of you. So thank you, Duane.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 4 on our agenda, and this is the WECM Leadership Project Activities Report. We went around the room at the beginning, but we have Faye Murphy now as the project director. So Jeff and Faye, you guys want to give us an update on where we're at?
Basically, as you all may know, we have 2 projects, okay? One is the WECM project. The second one is the programs of study. So we have, and of course, the other factor is I am a virtual employee. I'm working out of my home in Fort Worth. So each day I sign on, and I can sign into the San Jacinto system, and I proceed to work with that arrangement. It is very easy to work this way with all of the technology we have. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm probably more productive than I would be if I had people to talk to. But it did take a great deal of time to get my office set up so that it was compatible. We had the normal kinds of problems that you would have when you're trying to set up a computer system. At this point, it is set up and is working great. The project purchased new equipment for me, so everything is new and fast, and it's just wonderful. I have spent most of my time thus far in reviewing and trying to bring myself up to date. I have been away for 2 years, and so therefore I have absolutely no confidence in terms of what has happened in the last 2 years, so I've had to be very careful about asking questions. And if I'm asking you all questions, it's not I'm questioning what you did. I want to be sure that I'm not trying to live as if I lived 2 years ago. But we have gotten the materials set up. We're continuing to get all of the files from Midland College. These will all be in electronic format and will be accessible not only to me, but to Jeff, so that we can go back in the files and find past events. I think we're ready to roll now, frankly. I've felt that I was stumbling getting myself into the role, but I think I'm ready to go now, and this meeting has been very helpful in that regard.
I'd like to add that this transition from Midland College to San Jacinto College has actually worked very well. Working with Deana Savage and everyone on her staff to go through this transitional process has worked really, really well. We'll be sending Faye to Midland College to go through some more information and to really make sure that we're ready for next summer's workshop so that we can do a good workshop on our own. You know, we partnered last year, but we'll be taking full responsibility and moving forward from there. But the transition has been working very well, and we're really excited to be the fiscal agent for it.
I will comment on that too. We still have files left to get to San Jacinto, and we're in the process of that right now, as Faye said. So, but we work well together.
We do.
And, you know, this past summer, it showed the dedication from San Jacinto. The workshops worked perfectly. The accommodations, all the comments we received back from the people that participated were very positive. So they really enjoyed coming out to Houston and getting the work done. So we want to thank your team, Jeff, for, you know, setting everything up. We know we had some difficulties with hotels. You know, it's just the nature of the beast here in South Texas, you know, West Texas and South Texas. So the comments were very, very positive. I really appreciate, and the facilities were great. I mean, the rooms worked out really, really well. The hotels in the area were really nice. So I think most of you were there. Some of you live there, so you know what it was like. Any other comments for?
Well, I think just while you referenced it, I want to make sure, again, if somebody views this, that the comments from the faculty who actually attended the workshops really demonstrated that for some, actually, it was more convenient than going to Midland.
We take issue with that.
But I think overall the comments were very positive about the fact that San Jacinto, the facility itself, and the way, quite honestly, the leadership committee and the facilitators and all involved had prepared very well for those workshops this past summer, and those feelings were reflected very positively in the faculty evaluations.
Thank you.
Not to mention the culinary arts program.
Thank you.
Yes. The food was exceptional. Thank you.
They do a wonderful job, and we're very proud of them.
Yes. Give them our thanks.
We will.
On behalf of the committee.
We
Tell
will.
them we're coming back.
We will.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item here, the organizational report outs and updates. We do have someone from TACE here. Kristin, you want to give us an update?
An update? Well, we're just busy planning for the conference. I do have a couple of regional meetings coming up, so I was put on the agenda for the WECM update. I was, okay. So I'm glad that Duane was able to fill in, and I'll try my best to do y'all's part that y'all did at the conference last year. But that's with the North Central Texas region. I think you're going to be there too, right?
I'm going to be
Friday.
there. Friday.
So, and then the East region is also meeting, so we'll make sure that all that information gets out. But other than that, TACE is just looking forward to our April conference. It's in the meeting minutes from the last
August 7th meeting?
Yes,
Yes,
the
okay.
dates. So they're April 22nd, 23rd, 24th is the conference, and it'll be at South Park at Omni, where we always are. So we'll be getting out proposals soon, so for presentations.
And if I could just add something, the transition of the TACE WECM committee that works on the special topics and local needs will be happening to Kathy. Kathy will now be chair of that, and I'll be working with her to prepare her for taking over for the spring process. And I believe, trying to
Got
remember
those slots
seats. Are
filled.
all the seats filled?
We worked on that at the last board meeting, and so the slots are now filled.
Yay.
We reached out and got somebody from Berlin and somebody from
Yay.
the Central region, and so finally every seat.
You're
is
finally
filled.
off the hook.
I'm off the hook. You're off the hook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, Kurt, for anybody that might be viewing this, just a real brief synopsis of the purpose
Of the
of
TACE,
the
yeah.
TACE WECM review.
The TACE WECM committee every year reviews all of the special topics and local needs that on the continuing ed side that has come through the coordinating board in the previous 3 years for the SIP areas being reviewed that summer in the workshops. This was initiated, what year was this?
I think this will be the fifth year.
5th year.
5 years ago? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, a lot of water under that bridge. And it was originally a cost-saving efficiency attempt, and actually I think it's turned out really well because not only are we saving time in the WECM workshops, which are mainly credit faculty that didn't really have necessarily the want to look at the CE stuff because they don't deal with the CE stuff.
Or the understanding of it.
Yeah, and understanding the contract training perspectives necessarily. So having CE people review the CE special topics and local needs has worked out very well, and then all of those results then do end up back in the WECM workshops during the summer for final validation by the faculty. And anything that is identified as needing a new course, the committee might draft a new course, but then it is the faculty that does the final scripting of the course that goes into the WECM.
And just so that there's a clarification, that the CE staff that is reviewing those courses
Yes.
are administrative staff that have been as part of been part of the WECM process and are very knowledgeable about WECM protocols as well as instructional, because most of them are deans or directors of programs that have faculty that report directly to them.
Right, they're expected to reach out to assure that the courses meet the needs before it's finally reviewed.
And the chair of the committee is always the past president of TACE, and then there's a seat for every region in the state on the committee.
It's invaluable to the process. I appreciate your comment that it started maybe for reasons of economics, but in efficiency, but
yeah,
we tried for years to get CE input to the workshops, and
right.
Finally we have quality CE participation in course review.
And the process has been very good. We want to thank you, Kirk, for taking the initiative. You and Robin have worked really close over the years, and I know that sometimes you were put on the spot to continue to fill the shoes there. So thank you for all the work.
You're welcome. And Robin set up a good process, and
Absolutely.
I carried
She
it
sure
forward.
did.
I mean, everything's done virtually. We thought we might have to have live meetings, say at the TACE conference and everything, and none of that's ever had to happen. It's all done.
First year we got together and did a live meeting just to lay out the plans, but after that, everything has been totally virtual.
Okay, well, thank you. TACTE?
Yes, we had a very successful fall TCCIL conference, which was held the first week in October. We'd planned on 190 attendees. We actually had 189 attendees. The Spring TACTE Conference will be held April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2014. And we would like to invite everyone to attend the conference. It will be held at the Austin Downtown Omni. Please visit the TACTE website for registration and conference information. Thank you.
Thanks. We don't have anybody from TACRO here. I don't think. Matthew called in. I do have a comment regarding TACRO. I did get an email, and I'd like to ask for a volunteer. The TACRO conference is November 10th to the 13th at El Paso. So we are being asked to go ahead and present at this conference in El Paso, again, the 10th through the 13th. So do we have anyone that wants to attend the conference? Now, they typically pick up the travel expenses and accommodations. So
Typically, it's the chair that does go if you're available.
yes, but the reason I'm asking is because I won't be available. We're undergoing some extensive reviews. We're getting ready for fifth year reports. So I'm going to be pretty busy. So I'm asking for a volunteer if we have anyone.
Let me ask the specific day that this presentation is to be made. Do you know that?
The last time, I think it was the second date of the conference that Robin and I presented in Dallas. So.
And what you said, it was the 10th? The 10th is a Sunday. Are they start on Sunday?
Yes.
I think they do start on Sundays.
They start
If we could find out the day that it is, if it actually is on the Sunday, I would not be available, but the other days I could possibly do it again if you all wanted me to do it again.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to make this comment. The last TACRO conference was held in Dallas, and because there were several participants from Dallas that actually went in to hear the presentation from the past chair and the chair, they were very excited, including my provost, about the delivery. So if the chair and an immediate past chair do not do the presentation and someone else on this committee does do the presentation, I would ask that you use some parts of the presentation that was done in Dallas, because they were very excited about learning more about WECM and how it actually tied into their process. It is about relevancy to them. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Joyce. And obviously, there's going to have to be some changes to that presentation that Robin and I did because of the changes with the database. That's going to be huge, especially for people at TACRO, because a lot of them those are the users, and we want to make sure they have a complete understanding of all the changes. Also, talking about the process for the workshops. You know, we're talking more and more of getting these clusters together, and that obviously affects a lot of things on the student services side of the house. So yes, so whoever is going to volunteer for this presentation needs to get with us so we can have a really nice presentation to this group of people. And we did have a full house that day that we presented at the Dallas
Mr. Chair,
conference.
May I also recommend that maybe since we do not have all of the information, and that this committee needs to look at the presentation that was done in Dallas, and at that point in time, we would then ask for volunteers.
The one thing is that the window is closing on us here because the 10th to the 13th, we're pretty close here.
Yes.
And I apologize for not getting this out sooner, but you get involved with things and forget about some of these minor details.
Maybe we can give you an answer by Friday.
Okay.
Which is the 1st.
As long as we find out what date our presentation would actually be on, because we do have some other meetings that week that involve some of the members of this committee as well.
Correct.
Okay. So we'll table that for now, and we'll get information out on the specific time and date, and we'll send it out to the whole membership and see who's willing to, and Robin and I will get that presentation out also to the membership at large, okay? All righty. Well, thank you. Okay, so the next item, number 6 on our agenda, it's the protocol, and Don Perry has been working on the protocol, so we're going to have these handouts come out to the whole membership here. And Don, can you go ahead and start giving us a brief?
Mr. Chair, while I do the actual overview, Kirk White was kind enough to volunteer to be at the computer and pull it up so that we can see it on screen as well, and discuss these. Just as while Kirk's trying to do that, just wanted to give a little preamble comment. At our August 7th Leadership Committee meeting, there was a rather extensive discussion related to our protocols. And in fact, in the minutes, you'll see that reflected that there was a lot of discussion about the need to update some specific protocols that we have. And as the chair-elect, one of the responsibilities as chair-elect of the WECM Leadership Committee is to be kind of the keeper of the protocol manual. And so when there's a need for updates and recommendations to the committee, then it's the chair-elect who has the responsibility to work on that. So based on the requests from the Leadership Committee, I'm presenting back to you trying to reflect the changes in the specific protocols, mostly that were discussed at the last meeting. As I was doing some of these updates, I also noticed a few things that also needed to be modified as well. So, Mr. Chair, as a process here, what I would like to do is to ask the committee, is it the committee's wish that we go through these individually and vote on them one by one?
Go ahead.
Comment, go ahead.
Don, what I wanted to know is, I don't mind voting on them one by one, but if we vote on one, but then there's something else that comes along later having to do with that, we would have to go back and vote again.
That's the reason why I'm posing the question.
So my recommendation is let's go through them one by one and then do a vote at the end.
Very good. Thank you.
I would love to have an extended agenda slated.
I appreciate the wishes of the committee. Thank you so much. Okay. With that being settled, then, I'd like to start with the first recommended change. That has to do with Protocol 1-01-02. The subject of this particular protocol has to do with local need courses. Without reading every word in the existing protocol, I would like to bring your attention to the specific section that we had talked about as leadership committee having to do with local needs courses, and this really came out of actually something that occurred this summer at our WECM workshop, and that had to do with a particular team that wanted to basically have the state adopt the course that was a local need course approved for one particular institution. So we felt that there needed to be clarification about what that protocol really reflects in terms of who owns that local need course. So the change has to do with including the statement, a new sentence that says, once the course has been approved, only that institution is authorized to use and report the specific local course number. Now, I think, Rafael, you also had a question that this might not totally address something that you felt that we needed to consider. So is there something else that we need to discuss here?
Yes, it was regarding one of the teams this past summer wanted to adopt a local needs course, and we had a discussion, the facilitators and the lead facilitators that were there. The team felt like this course should become a regular WECM course, but we had a discussion with the coordinating board, as a matter of fact, Duane was there, that we needed more institutions involved, not just one, but that the team insisted on adopting because they thought it was a good course, but we had no policy or protocol reference how many institutions needed to have the same outcome, even though it might have been a different local needs course number, but the outcome should have been the same throughout the state. So we were not able to adopt that course. I don't recall who was there with me at the time. Robin, were you the person? I believe it was you and I were there, lead facilitators. So, Duane, did you recall that we had the discussion there in Houston?
Yeah, I remember the discussion, and our current, I guess, policy, I don't know if it's written down anywhere or not, but a policy is that if the same topic is offered by several colleges, then it may be adopted into a WECM course. I think the issue is that we really haven't defined several and, set a threshold for how many colleges would need to request a course before it became part of the WECM.
Excuse me.
Yes, Deana, go ahead.
Well, a couple of comments. One is the last sentence in this protocol says that during WECM course review, the participants evaluate the courses to determine if new courses should be added to or existing courses revised, which stands. We do that. If the issue is how many local need courses, I'd be reluctant to go to a rule that says you have to have so many. I think rather our practice is if there's a local need course and then there may be a special topics course and there may be an we're putting together evidence to indicate. As I understood it, this workshop where it became an issue, it was a single course lacking other evidence of need.
Right.
And so that's where I think the ruling fell. If we get ourselves engaged in saying you have to have 3 special topics or 3 local needs or 5 or whatever it is, I think we put ourselves in a bad position. We put the field in a bad position. I would encourage us to find a way to consider a local need course as a piece of evidence in the context of other pieces of evidence that we need to do something. So.
Kurt, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to describe is that a situation occurs where you identify a trend across the state for a specific course, and one course is not a trend, but two might. If the faculty know that there is an emerging something in their field, technology, new content, and two colleges have already started to jump in to do it, then to me that's a trend.
I agree.
And it's a trigger for a new course. But a single course is not a trend. So maybe we craft the language somehow around the concept of a trend rather than quantifiable number that it needed to write a course.
I agree.
I think what may have been discovered this summer was the fact that the other faculty thought it was a wonderful idea. They saw that it was a wonderful idea, but they still hadn't brought it back to their institutions to see if they would adopt it at that point. And that's the opportunity then for a local need to be resubmitted when the faculty comes back to their institution and say, hey, look at what I discovered at this workshop. Should we implement it? And if it gets into their inventory, then we would see a trend.
I think that's the idea. Then have the faculty, and then if they submit it from their institution, now the coordinating board has multiple local needs and special topics, there's justification. So.
And you have evidence of a trend, and that would be my concern, is a single course does not constitute evidence. However, I would not say that the only evidence is number of local need courses. It might be other things. It might be technology, regulation, special topics courses, those kinds of things. So.
Joyce, you had a comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the changes in this protocol does not directly address what was happening this summer and the need for that. No. That then, of course, needs to probably move down to the section where we're actually talking about how the workshop is set up for addressing putting courses into the WECM based on local need.
Or to the triggers protocol.
Right. Uh-huh. The other thing that I wanted to say about the changes of the protocol, when we talk about report specific local courses, I know we're talking about state reporting for reimbursement. So if we're going to make that change, make a clarification there, and I'm not sure if that change is still necessary, since now we've clarified what the need really is about trends and triggers and evidence, actually having the wording to reflect more of that.
I think they're two separate things. The protocol revision is one thing, which is to clarify that once a local need course is approved for an institution, and so it's not approved as part of the statewide database. And that's what this does.
Right.
And if we want to then move forward for subsequent review of how it is we evaluate local needs courses for their implications for WECM, I think it ought to be under the triggers list. Joyce, that would
a different protocol.
Yeah, under the protocol.
Under the protocol.
And we might opt not to do that now, but refer it back to protocol review. Is that reasonable?
I agree.
But let this stand as a clarification for institutions that submit local need courses.
Okay, so the recommendation is we're going to move on to the next. This protocol stays as it is, and we'll look at the triggers protocol in reference to Joyce's question. Kurt, you had a comment?
So we're not going to adopt this proposed change or consider it?
Yes. No.
Remember what we agreed to. Y'all said we're going to go through each one individually, but we're not going to vote on any changes yet.
But I do have a comment about the language of this.
Okay.
It talks about the local need number as a way of identifying the course, and all local needs numbers are often the same. So I'm suggesting we say number and title, something to distinguish it. I mean, when you
no, Kirk, actually, Duane can verify that I'm correct or not, but a specific local need number is unique to that institution only.
Course is, but the physical number that's attached to it is a 1071 or 1370.
Yeah.
I guess my point is it's not a unique number to the institution, it's a unique course to the institution. So I don't know.
And you're
that
right.
doesn't
If we're going to put it in
Gotcha.
Yes.
I understand.
Put it in protocol.
I understand what you're.
It is a course.
So you could modify that by putting period after the word course.
Course.
In.
Just take that number.
Yeah.
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 I think the point Kirk's making is, for example, HPRS 1371,
Yep.
medical terminology.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know there are 4 or 5 institutions that all teach HPRS 1371.
Right.
Because they want a 3-credit-hour midterm
Right.
instead of a 1 or a 2. So the point Kirk is making
Yes.
is that course number and rubric
Right. It's
is
a course.
common to 3 or 4 institutions, although
Correct.
it's not in WECM. So.
Right.
But it is unique. It's been approved to be turned in by that institution as a course they're allowed to teach in their report to the COBA.
Right. And I guess, part of this is the question in my head then, because when we do state reporting of course and student information for reimbursement purposes, it's the rubric and course number that's reported along with the contact hours per course.
Right.
So,
Title doesn't travel.
It's that,
It's
but
the
it is that
course.
course.
It is that course.
right.
As identified by a rubric number
Right.
combination
Right.
at an institution. That begs a question about our review process, though. Duane, when you bring forward, I know I should know this, and I apologize. When you bring forward local need courses for review at a workshop, they're not just new ones.
Oh, we usually look at the past 3 years
Right.
of submissions.
We might want to take a look at that, because if there are multiple institutions that had 4 years ago a local need course approved, and now we've added more, we may have a trend that we're missing.
Right.
So we might want to look at the whole local need course inventory, including new submissions for a zip code area. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because of what Steve just said.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not, we could do that, couldn't we?
Sure.
Yeah. I think that'd be more appropriate, because we might have.
I think it'll give a clearer picture.
Yeah, we might have hidden evidence
Right.
that was from 4 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we went ahead and modified, just took out the word number there on this. We're going to move on to the next protocol.
I have a comment
Oh,
on
one more comment.
Yes. Yeah, I have a comment. On the first bullet, let's see, it's the third sentence, I guess. It said, prefer and allowable combinations have been outlined in the following table.
Oh, yeah. It's going away.
Yeah, so we're
Delete that.
yeah, we need to maybe make a revision there, because then it says a contact our range chart with lecture, and it goes, the next those two sentences need to probably delete those.
Those are in the GIP. Well, no, they're not in the GIP.
Or remodify it.
Yeah. I'd say delete them.
Well,
Where are you, Jeff?
I think that's a good catch, but before we decide to drop that, let's look at the next protocol.
Right.
Because there's some changes recommended in that protocol for similar reasons, okay? And so, in essence, what might occur at the wish of this group later is that what's referenced in this protocol as to the table might be also a duplication of the table that we're getting ready to see as well.
Right.
So.
Also, based on our conversation about the last paragraph, I'm wondering if we should add some sort of wording to there where it says, during WECM course review, instructional specialists evaluate local need courses to determine if new courses should be added, and maybe say, based on established triggers in protocol, whatever, to existing courses, something like that, because otherwise we're not saying to utilize those triggers.
That's what I was
That
saying.
was her point.
Yes, so can we make note of that addition so that when we do go to vote, that we vote on that as well?
Can you read your sentence again?
Maybe, I guess after it says should be added to or existing courses, no, wait, okay, maybe should be added based on the established triggers in protocol and whatever, I don't know what protocol number that is.
That's the last paragraph that
Right.
you're reading in reference for everyone else.
Yes. Does that make sense? Okay.
Kurt, let's see. On the trigger protocol, hang on just a second because it's in here as well.
Oh, it is?
That's
Okay.
2-01-02.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robin, I think that really gets at what Joyce was recommending, and it's to the point. Okay. The second protocol I'm bringing to your attention is Protocol 1-02-08. The subject is contact hour ranges and SCH, semester credit hour options. Last revised in August 4 of 2010. And again, this is actually, this recommended change was discussed at the August 7th meeting, rising out of another issue with the team at this past summer's workshop. And it had to do with the fact that we have been operating for many, many years, not only at the workshops, but just in terms of the WECM as it's set up, not only in the database, but in the reporting process, state reporting processes. We have always maintained the fact that a particular WECM course is limited to 2 consecutive credit hours in the range. For example, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 credits, but they cannot be 2 to 5 credits or something like that. And it's based on sound instructional policy, and that is that the extent of the range of the credits as reflected in the contact hours of the lecture and or lab components, you have to ensure integrity of the fact that you're teaching to the same outcomes. And when you get that range too far, then you lose the instructional integrity of maintaining the fact that you're really ensuring statewide consistency of teaching those outcomes. So the proposed language change, as indicated, is a sentence in the middle that says, in an effort to maintain instructional integrity, semester credit hour ranges are limited to 2 consecutive credit hours, i.e. 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5.
Chair, point of discussion for clarification only. Since the table reflects semester credit hours 1 through 5, and we are in reference to the table, I suggest that the example that we're using also reflects a 1 to 2 credit hour as an example. That's part of that. It's a 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. I suggest that we also have a 1 to 2 because we do have 1 credit hours. And if we're starting to look at reduction to 60-hour credit programs, we need to make sure that while it is there, they have that option. But if they're reading this, we need to make sure it's reflective there.
Very good point. And you know, yes, can you make that correct the addition there, Kirk, to the
well, let's
example?
have discussion.
Okay, discussion.
I agree and would request that Kirk, there's just a little grammatical thing going there, some semicolons and colons, and you can fix that, yeah. That's a good point.
Anybody else have a comment regarding the request from Joyce? Any other? Yeah, and again, this lends itself, you know, as we look at core courses for programs of study, you know, we want to have consistency also across the state. So this is a very good point that Joyce is making. You know, we have a college teaching one course with, you know, 96 hours, another one teaching it at 16. It creates a problem for the students for portability. So it's good point, Joyce. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make that change to the protocol there.
Also, committee members will note that the table that was in use, the reason why I struck out the whole table is because I needed to make one particular change to reflect something. But since this was all in a table format structure, even the title. There was no way I could make that slight change without striking everything. And so, in essence, the proposed change truly is to reflect that the contact hour range table not specify whether it's special topics or local needs or whatever, that it reflect the actual table that we use at the workshops. And so it's a table that really needs to be called just preferred and allowable contact hour ranges for WECM courses.
May I make a suggestion or a thought, at least everybody think about this for a moment. With the upcoming GIPWE changes, would it be better, rather than to have this table actually in our protocol, to refer to the GIPWE table for this information so that we won't have to come back then and revise this should there be any additional changes? As we've heard that the GIPWE is actually moving to that, referring to the rules of the coordinating board rather than reiterating them. Would it be better for our protocol to refer to the guidelines?
We don't know if the table's going to be in the.
We don't know. We don't know what the
And
difference
we
is.
want to make sure that they understand the table.
I'm just a thought.
Yeah, I think it's good, but at the same time, if you're at the workshop, the quickest way is to get to the protocol, and you find the information there right away.
I don't want to drive them to another website.
That's right.
Kirk?
Quick point of clarification on the table. And we discovered it was when we were looking at the GIPWE the other day. On the other allowable ranges, for example, for the 1 credit hour course, it says allowable contact hour range per semester 16 to 64, yet the only allowable combinations are 32 to 64. Should that allowable range column be adjusted so that the bottom range matches the bottom in the combinations?
We've run into that before, Kirk, and that's a good question.
I believe that might just be the way the table is formatted. The lines don't line up right.
It's that way in the GIPWE, actually.
And that's very
As we looked
confusing.
at it.
What I'm saying is because the line should be below 1016 instead of above 1016.
Right.
So 1016 should be included in the 1 credit hour version, and 0464 also. So it's really just a matter of the table being
adjusted.
Right.
Yeah, because even on the preferred, there is no 16-hour.
But all the way down the page.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. The whole thing is
I think it's a table
misaligned.
And then when we get this at the workshop, it looks like this. So that is very confusing to faculty.
Yes.
More or the instructional specialist.
Yeah, we should at least have a 16-hour right there. Even on the preferred.
Well,
Lecture should be a 1 hour.
it does here.
And if we pull up the...
We could just request the project staff clean up the table.
Yes.
Okay. Well, but I think Robin and I looked at the GIPWE, the table that's in
Is
the
it the
GIPWE.
same in the GIPWE?
Yeah, we'll double check that also.
It's an issue there, too.
Okay,
I
we'll
will point out
Hey,
that
we've
the
just never
WECM
noticed.
protocol only included allowable combinations. Right? That's what you had to remove. Boy, this is steeped in history. And back when we wanted to put
Yeah, what the original table was showing was that special topics courses are actually don't use the entire range.
Right.
But that's also true for other WECM courses.
Right.
So there might need to be explanation that says only that the WECM course has a specific range and only that range may be used with this table.
You might want to be a little
I have to
careful with
figure
that.
out how to phrase that.
Now, let me be sure I'm hearing you. Are you saying that we should do away with allowable but have only 1 chart?
No. We're talking about the previous table was for special topics courses.
Okay.
And Don
specifically,
was
and they don't
recommending
have.
that- Actually, Don, what happens is you are now recommending that we replace that special topics table with a table that indicates preferred and allowable. the full range?
No, actually not.
Not?
There are, if you look in the other protocol, which you don't have here, we actually have a special topics protocol with a table.
Mm-hmm.
We have a local needs protocol with a table.
Right.
Then we have this protocol
Which should
with
have
the table as well, but the table used for this protocol pulled and used the special topics table.
So the recommendation is that we present the full table because that's the appropriate table for this protocol.
That's correct.
So we need to be sure we get this, because when we moved this appropriate table over to connect it to this protocol, we got some lines
Right.
fell out. Yeah.
Right.
And we can clean that up. Yeah.
What Kurt is saying.
This is the GIPWE table, straight from the, and you see the
Yeah.
Yes.
the issue there.
Okay, and again, just to clarify, the credit hours in the other allowable column includes the combinations that are in the preferred combinations. We just didn't want to repeat them because that would cause the table to expand. So that range includes the preferable or the preferred combinations.
So it's all inclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just the combinations under the other allowable combinations, the ones that aren't included in the preferred combinations that are listed there.
Don, I guess I have a history question here. How, and for Duane also, how often do people use the allowable as opposed to the preferred? And is there any reason why there's not just a table?
Yes, there is a lot of history to that.
We have time under our
And actually,
constraints to go
that
through all of
history
that.
is what caused us to end up with a special topics table in a protocol.
Right.
Because of the desire to move away from an allowable, that preferred allowable matrix. But there's a lot of history, and it has to do with extreme ranges for the same course across the state, and trying to bring that into something that's defensible in terms of, best practice and common practice. I think Don's phrase was integrity of the course, which was a good phrase. Those other allowables were pretty extreme.
Yeah, and another, I guess, historical clarification about other allowable, those were mainly, basically it's mathematical possible.
Possibly.
And so it's not necessarily best practice or common practice. It's more when you're writing a course, what are the mathematically possible contact hour ranges based on the 1-to-4 ratio of lab to credit.
Right. What are all the possible combinations that represent the lecture lab configurations?
Yes.
Right.
Which ends up with some real extremes when you compare one course to another. Just pedagogically, it's hard to defend it.
Certainly, and that's something we'll be looking at as we're revising.
Don, on this preferred and allowable contact hour range for WECM courses, do we need to stipulate in any way that it does not apply to internships, cooperative experiences?
Oh, there's separate tables for those.
Yes.
I understand.
There's one in the GIPWE that addresses those.
Yeah. All your external learning experience tables are a whole nother set of ratios, and that's explained in Chapter 4 of the GIPWE currently.
I think he was just asking if there needs to be a statement that says for externships, see additional tables. But I think what you're saying, this protocol is only addressing special topics. And maybe our recommendation for the GIPWE could be that we add that statement there.
Well, actually, Steve's recommendation, now that I think about it, is probably a very good one, because what I'm doing here is recommending that we change the title of the table to a generic WECM course title.
You don't want to have
special topics,
you don't want to
not
have a
local
special
needs.
topics.
Right, and so if we're going to go to a generic title of the table as WECM courses, then you're correct, Steve. We need to put a notation that this applies to lecture, lab, semester credit hour courses only, and does not apply towards external learning experience courses, which are reflected in protocol number and table number such and such. So, good point.
Well, I would just have some program directors or faculty would come and
Right,
and set
right.
my 368 contact hour internship now has to be 116.
Yep.
It'll cause them concern.
Yeah.
Okay, Kirk's waiting then on
I think that
putting the comment at the bottom of this table.
I think
Don?
that issue might just totally be resolved if in the title of the table you say preferred and allowable contact hour ranges for WECM lecture lab courses.
Okay.
Great.
At the top, okay.
Great, Duane. Thank you.
Addresses.
Lab.
That,
I'm really.
That still takes us back to
Might still-
oh, go ahead, Duane.
I was going to say, if you still want to put a footnote that says for external hours, see protocol blank.
It still takes us back to the comment and the prior protocol that I was discussing on the contact hour range chart.
Right.
And
right.
So if we need to apply this to the very first protocol,
You could just do exactly what you recommended, strike two sentences, and
strike
it
the
would
two
now
sentences.
stand, the courses must follow the established ratios for contact hour and credit assignments,
yep.
which are now established in the full table with the proper heading on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going back to the first protocol, Kirk, to strike out those the sentence
Settle in. It's gonna be-
10102, the first protocol.
Yes. The first bullet.
First bullet,
First bullet, there you go. Last two sentences.
those last two sentences can be struck.
Starting from preferred, yep.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
good catch.
I just have one clarification being the new kid on the block. I told Joyce I'm trying to keep up. Sometimes I think you're speaking a different language, although I'm somewhat familiar with it. So on this protocol, it's just related to special needs courses. Taking this table away, because the subject says contact hour ranges and SCH options.
No.
That's
The discussion we were just now talking about takes us back to the first one we talked about.
Yes.
Now, that one is just special topics and
And
local
this is
needs.
the deletion of this reference to this
Okay.
table.
But so we're still going to have the table. It's just the local needs combination tables and special topics is
Right.
going away.
Right.
So when we see, we'll have one table.
Yes.
Or
Right.
external.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
You got, good.
Got it, you did.
You're learning that language.
Thank you, Kristin.
On the first one, can we have just one maybe little change to discuss? It says once the course has been approved. Could that be once the course is approved? Because the rest of your sentence is present tense.
I would actually put upon approval.
Yeah,
That works too.
Yeah, I'd put on
Either
approval.
that's
one.
very good.
Yeah. Upon approval. Only that institution is authorized to use and report the specific local need course.
Then on the chart on the second one, what I understood, I believe I understood Duane to say, is at the bottom where it says other allowable patterns are not recommended but are available for special circumstances. Is there a way to also say the other allowable patterns also includes the preferred combinations, and then that's puts in writing what he said? So you're not repeating all of the numbers.
Deana, I'm not following you.
Okay. When we were talking about the different numbers and the way the GIPWE looks different, like the 1 to 16 isn't in the other allowable, but the other allowable includes, he said, the preferred combinations.
Mm-hmm.
So could that just be, that little includes the preferred combinations be at the bottom of our page where it's discussing other allowable?
Oh, at the bottom, where the asterisk
The
is.
footnote, the asterisk footnote is
Yes,
what you're
sir.
referring
Yes.
to?
Yes.
The term other,
Other allowable.
these are other combinations.
than the preferred?
In addition to the
Yes.
preferred.
Okay, but that was the confusion that Kirk was bringing. Yes. Okay.
That makes sense. I mean, Am I missing the point?
Maybe
But
we can
his-
clarify what other allowable
his
combinations
clarification-
are.
Well, Duane's clarification about why the allowable range does not match the allowable
Can't do all the mathematical
is
combinations.
because it's
Incorporates.
incorporating the first one as well.
So does the term other not imply that? The first column is
Other
preferred,
implies this is in addition to.
right?
Correct.
We're really saying it's comprehensive of, is what we're saying. So maybe it's the other that.
Is wrong.
I do like the in addition to. In addition to what the preferred has to offer.
And this is going to be very important when we start looking at these 60-hour degree plans.
Oh, good point.
Maybe the heading on the whether it says other allowable, that's what this is misleading. Okay.
How about if you put allowable but not preferred combinations? You have preferred combinations and allowable.
Allowable,
but not
yes,
preferred.
yes.
So then can I ask the obvious question, being the new kid on the block? I mean, what's the difference? I mean, this is going to be this table is going to be worn out on these 60-hour degree plans. Because if we've already started looking at the few that I have in my area, and when you start having to look at having to take away a fire science class to be able to meet all the other requirements, but yet you're still expected to produce a competent firefighter.
You're going to increase the contact hours and
something. So, I mean, you got to go
so
somewhere.
You need that allowable combination for contact
right.
hours.
So I don't know who really watches, who uses allowable and preferred, but.
Well, it's looked at the workshops, and I will tell you the facilitators are trained by the leadership
And they use it.
to say, let's look and see. Generally, all of you faculty, are y'all teaching this range or not? And we actually use the frequency data charts from the coordinating board that tells us that these institutions across the state of Texas, so many of them are using this range, and so many of them using this range, and so many of them using this range. And what we're trying to do is, because we're all from the field here, we're all trying to allow ourselves flexibility, yet at the same time trying to say, you know, for instructional integrity purposes, we also have to make sure that we're not just allowing people to go out there and do anything they want.
Kristin, too, it's kind of, you would not use this table at your individual institution because the range is set on the course you have.
Right.
Right? So where the pressure will come to bear is at the workshops as we go through this process. So I think what we're going to have to do, and I think your point's well taken, the pressure is going to come. It won't come at the institutional level, it'll come at the workshop level to expand ranges. We're going to have to deal with that. What is good practice, even more and more. Now, we have a pretty good working, facilitators are trained to deal with this right now, so that essentially, before you move over to this extreme column, you have to come back in and meet with the mentors, and there has to be a justification in terms of the course content, the way it's taught, you know, those kinds of things. So I was thinking earlier, we're probably going to have to end up beefing that up and clarifying it in here. And it's going to take some thought. How do you justify moving over to this other allowable? I think we've had good working practice, but we're probably going to have to clarify it. I think you're right.
I think it depends if one of y'all are, if it's somebody as knowledgeable as each one of y'all are there to guide those faculty members who are and advisory board members who are trying to make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah.
Does
There
that make
will be
sense?
pressure on it. There will be pressure on it.
And Kristin, you'll find many times during workshops when I'm a facilitator or at my institution, just because the allowable range is 16 to 64, when you actually go into the WECM database and you look at a certain course, it may say 32 to 48. The instructional specialist may have said, you can't teach that in 16 hours. So they've set the minimum at 32, and they say, no, you don't need the 64 because that's only the allowable. So they set it at 32 to 48. So even though it could be 16 to 64, they don't have that option.
Right. And it's not in the
And you're right,
yeah.
they are going to be worn out, because if you're dropping credits, you may look at within the combinations that are in the WECM database, what can I do? Can I increase a few contact hours, even though I'm having to cut a credit?
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to see on a 4 credit hour a 64 to 160. It may say 80 to 128, and that's it. So they can't use those other allowable combinations.
So again, back to this question, I think Deana had also the concern about the comment at the bottom here. Is the title of the heading on this column confusing to? Would it be confusing to the field? Do we need to make a change there so it's clear?
I don't want to say it's inclusive, because then that sentence, if I understood you, Deana. And I'm not sure it did. I think what you were trying to say is this far right column is inclusive of all the preferred.
Right, and maybe it doesn't need to say that so much as it said, these
are the other possible mathematical combinations that could happen. However, they are not preferred.
Okay.
They are, in fact, there's probably a stronger word for saying what they are. They're questionable in some ways.
Okay.
If that sentence down there said that the other allowable is inclusive of the preferred, then you kind of lose that meaning of
not preferable.
Go there, not
preferable. Right.
So
That's really the reason why the word preferred and other allowable words are quoted in the footnote.
I wonder.
To put emphasis on those.
But I do wonder, Don, if we ought to say other allowable but not preferred combinations. If that's
in the footnote.
No, up on your head.
Up at the top. Terry had a comment?
I do want to clarify, and I think, Deana, that you touched on it, but I just want to make sure, if we have a course that a college is using right now, and it's in the WECM at a range that we're no longer going to accept, until that course hits the workshop and it is changed, it's not up to the college, it is up to the changes that happen at the workshop. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yes, okay, I just want to, I think that's something we need to make sure the responsibility and where it falls.
Yeah, good point. And colleges, as they go through this painful process, will use, I'm sure, the full ranges that are approved for the course.
Exactly. And that was I know that
it can't go here.
Right, okay.
Kurt, you had a comment?
Well, the conversation then has come back around to, I think, what I originally was saying, is if we are wanting to be distinct between preferred and other allowable, 16 should not be there. 32 should not be there. This should be a 48 to 182 for the other allowable ranges.
And that's actually a GIPWE issue that needs to be
It really is.
that needs to be addressed as well, because that's in the GIPWE chart on page 71.
This
so
is the GIPWE chart we're looking at right
exactly.
now.
I think the GIPWE chart has had flaws in it for a long, long time, because I think we've run into this before, and we just moved on. but yeah.
Well, my point is I don't think that we can really make an adjustment in our protocol because of the fact that we're really referencing the GIPWE chart.
But we can make a recommendation during the
Yes.
Coordinating board.
Yes, I think that'd be a good recommendation.
So noted.
Thanks, Duane.
Okay, so we're back to this table. We want to take a little break here. Any other comments regarding this table? We obviously are going to come back and finish this protocol here. Any other comments? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. I know people want to go use the facilities and probably answer some phone calls.
Okay, I think where we left off, Mr. Chair, is that we were still on this protocol and the table. And in the discussion about the table in Protocol 1-02-08. And during the break, there's been even some more just sidebar conversation, I think, with folks about, again, whether or not we need to be referring these tables in the protocol manual. So I just want to put it back out on the table for discussion here, whether we have tables or not.
And that was my comment, is this is a GIPWE matter more than a protocol matter, because this chart is actually out of GIPWE. And so I'm not sure that we can really make adjustments to this and put it into the protocol, and that was my question.
I'm going to disagree slightly.
Okay.
Okay. The use of these charts is in the creation of local need, of WECM courses. That's really why they came to exist, is for WECM. So if they're in GIPWE, they would, to the extent that they refer to courses that go in the database, not local needers, not local need courses. I'm going to exclude local need from this comment. Otherwise, they are for creation of WECM courses. So say if they're a GIPWE issue, it's the WECM chapter of GIPWE, or we just need them in here as workshop tools. You know, I suppose that the GIPWE issue is, are there guidelines for those limits, those range limits? You know, so, and that I guess would be in the WECM chapter. Is that where you're going?
My point is that this chart is in GIPWE, and either we refer to GIPWE or we use the chart out of GIPWE, because we can't make modifications to it. That's my point.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just want to say,
I'm not
it's
saying
WECM GIPWE is what I'm saying. You know, if this is about WECM, but
is it not true, again, this is part of history, is it not true that in fact what wound up in GIPWE in Chapter 4 came from the recommendations from the WECM Leadership Committee that these tables needed to be reflected in the GIPWE?
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're right. So, okay, the point would be then, they need to be clarified, and they need to be in GIPWE, and we need to refer to GIPWE. Is that your?
That's kind of my point. Yes.
Okay, I'm good.
Joyce, you had a comment?
Yes, I think what Jeff, I'm not trying to interpret for him, but we did have a sidebar conversation, that this is not our chart. While we can make recommendations, those recommendations are to the coordinating board to make the changes in GIPWE, so that when we pull this into the WECM section of GIPWE, that is reflected there. So as the leadership committee has done before, is making recommendations to GIPWE, those to the coordinating board for the changes in GIPWE, then we do that as a committee, because it's going to reflect the protocol. So the chair-elect will gather our recommendations about the chart, so those changes are reflected in GIPWE as we pull those back into our protocol, that those recommendations will be clarified for us as part of the WECM section of GIPWE 1, and also as part of our protocol.
I also want to make just a brief point that the protocol manual is a tool for WECM. If you decide to use a chart that's not as complete as the one in the GIPWE, you're able to do that if we agree to do that. So if you wanted to have a chart in the protocol manual that only had the preferred ranges, for example, that would be allowable to do. I mean, as far
don't
as
use the word allowable.
That would be permitted.
That would be permissible.
As far as a tool for
for workshops,
for writing courses, for things like that. So you don't need to duplicate the table from the GIPWE. You can just use as long as it's sound, you can use that.
We just don't want to make the changes.
Right, the changes you make in this would not match.
Right, we don't want to make changes of comments here or there for that. We can use what we've had before, which showed only the preferred ranges.
That's right. As part of the protocol manual, you can do that.
So right now, it's not a motion, but the discussion is maybe we don't need to touch this because the GIPWE will take care of it, but we need to make sure we get our comments heard when the revisions to the GIPWE take place regarding this table.
Correct.
Right.
Okay?
And as Don is our protocol expert here, I don't think we're going to have a problem for the GIPWE hearing that.
Okay, so we're going to move on from this protocol with the recommendation that this table may come out completely then, not just the one that was for special topics and special topics. So the protocol, when we come back to vote on this protocol, this will probably be removed. So we need to remember that, okay?
Okay.
But can we go back to what Deana had said earlier, that this is the protocol and this is what's used in the workshops?
Right.
So I want to circle back to that because I think that I personally think the table needs to be in there.
Well, I guess the question is, can we only use workshop tools that are part of the protocol manual or not?
Yeah, we can reach the GIPWE and get the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where it really functions is as a workshop tool. I mean, that's when you really use the table.
Right.
And that's where I was going. And, and that leads to Joyce's comments that we are the stakeholders that need to make recommendations to the coordinating board about this table and its role in GIPWE. Yeah.
But in terms of tools that are important at the workshop, certainly protocols that we have in place are a part of our toolkit. But if we have charts that are appropriate to be used at the workshop, I'm of the mind that we're limited in the types of tools that we can provide to only those things that are in the protocol manual. That would be very restrictive.
And we'd end up duplicating a lot of things in the protocol just so.
And that's what the discussion about GIPWE is about, is not repeating what is already guidelines and policies that are out there. And so I would recommend to do the same thing, because when anything changes in GIPWE, that requires us to go back and change protocol. Protocol should be more broad and encompassing of what the recommendations of this.
I think taking Duane's recommendation also, if we do want to create a different table that's exclusive to those things that we really want to emphasize, we can do that, but still have the link there for this table out of the GIPWE. Once the GIPWE is revised, you can still have the link on the protocol.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then if we decide to create our own table with just the allowable combinations, then we can do that at another date. Does everybody agree with that?
The preferable combinations.
Yes. Yes. The preferred, not
back to all that wording again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then moving on to the next protocol that's up for discussion is 2-01-01. Pardon me. The subject of this protocol is called Review of WECM Courses. And the protocol as it currently exists indicates that WECM courses are reviewed on a 3-year basis, as indicated by triggers outlined in Protocol 2-0102. 3 to 5 WECM course review workshops are conducted annually. Based on our dialogue and discussion and the recommendations from the WECM task group to the full WECM leadership committee, culminating in our dialogue and discussion on August the 7th, was the reality that we have some unevenness that's going on in our summer workshops, partially due to the 3-year cycle that we're on, and the fact that we have now are using career clusters as a part of the reason we are asking certain teams to be at a specific workshop. We have just now completed, in essence, our review as a task group of the first cycle of all the workshops. We started 2012, 13, and then coming up on 2014 will represent the last of the 3-year cycles. Our first year, 2012, was super heavy. Then we ran into a light year. And then we ran into another heavy year. So part of what, and this will come out in more full detail when the task group reports out to you later. But in essence, by moving to a 4-year review cycle, it allows the project team to have a sense that there's more evenness in the number of workshops, the number of facilitators that need to be used, the number of people that they can plan for to attend these workshops. And so that also plays out towards, in essence, some reality, folks, in terms of budget limitations, in terms of what the Perkins grant, and given, I don't want us to get off on too far of a tangent here, but the reality is that we're experiencing nationally federal cutbacks. Sequestration is still in place. We're still going to lose from Perkins each year. And so the reality is that for the foreseeable future, there's going to be less Perkins money to the state of Texas and less Perkins money to, as the coordinating board is a sub-grantee from TEA. So the reality is that we have to take all that into account when we look at the number of workshops and the number of teams and the number of people and the cost and the expenses involved. And so stretching it out to a 4-year cycle instead of 3 evens out the workload, but it also provides an opportunity for us and for the project itself to more thoughtfully plan from a budget and financial perspective as well. So, having said all of that, the recommended change is to say WECM courses are reviewed on a 4-year cycle to ensure currency, but may be reviewed more frequently, and that's the end of the new change, and what's already in language as indicated by triggers, quote, outlined in Protocol 2-01-02. And so we're going to talk about the triggers here in just a minute as the next one. But just anything in terms of the statement itself, the phrase on a 4-year cycle to ensure currency, but may be reviewed more frequently.
Don, there was a typo in the written version, but I think Kirk has already caught it. It should be ensure instead of ensures.
Okay.
May I also make a comment? The last sentence, it says 3 to 5 WECM course review workshops are conducted annually.
Right.
Do we really want to limit that in there? Is that restrictive?
Well, that's in there, and again, part of this is for the leadership committee itself to be aware that we are a committee, but we are a committee who is working with a project who has the fiduciary responsibilities.
Right.
But do we want to limit ourselves to 5 workshops?
Right. And what if one summer we only have 2 for some reason? I don't know that the numbers are relevant in this protocol.
Well,
maybe what you can say based on fiscal agent expiration or something like
Or is it fiscal agent? Is it the need? Is it the need to have the workshop?
Can't combine any of those.
Do what?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it the need to have the workshop versus just not having the funding? Because if you don't have the funding, obviously you can't do the workshop. But if we don't have courses, in which we know that's not going to happen, but we
Well,
know that.
I think folks were talking in theory here. And
Yes,
the
yes.
fact is, given the commitment that we need to ensure currency, I think it would be almost impossible to never have fewer than 3.
But we could have more.
But we could have more than 5.
Yeah.
But that's only based on financial reality. And right now, you could consult the project staff here, and I bet they can tell you there's not enough money in the budget for more than 5 workshops.
Is it necessary to have the 3 to 5 in there?
Right.
If
That's
we
what-
just had it, no, I know, but if we just had it saying WECM course review workshops are conducted annually.
That'd be perfect.
That's what I'm saying, that would be perfect.
Okay?
Now then, let's go back to funding, okay? What if we do not have a measure, and all of a sudden they're saying, well, you don't have enough money, we don't have enough money at the state level. Do 1 this summer. You see what I'm saying?
Right, that's why we're
I
talking.
believe right now it's 2.
Well, right now, we're just removing,
Yeah.
we just want to remove
The
that
recommended
step.
change
On our
is to
side, that
drop.
we're going to do so many so that we get the money, is what I'm thinking
Right.
now.
So the recommended change is to drop the phrase 3 to 5 and start with WECM course review workshops are conducted annually.
And what that comment was is just putting in some type of measure. Yeah, I'm not.
Maybe as needed based on the staff, okay. Maybe based on the cycle, because we do have the 4-year cycle. So WECM course review workshops are conducted annually based on cycle and triggers or something so that we have the cycle. It kind of addresses your concern that if we don't say something, it could come back that we
decided
can't
we're
have
not
a
gonna do
minimum.
that this year.
I noticed Deana stepped out, and she might know a little bit more about the history of this, but this may be in there because the co-board is going to hold this leadership committee and the summer workshop, the state leadership grant, accountable.
That was my
for
point.
conducting a minimum amount of work, but they also wanted to limit the maximum amount of work because they can only budget for so much.
Right.
So my assumption that the reason that those minimum and maximum are in there is, number one, to ensure that we're doing at least the minimum amount of work according to the grant. But again, we can't ask for unlimited funds to hold 8 workshops in a summer.
Steve, that was my point, but you stated it better than I did.
So Jeff, in the application for this year, was that a part of the application? What was stated in the application?
Actually, in the application this year, it was only put in for 2 workshops.
Oh, my Lord.
So there we go.
I believe that was the approved application.
That was based on
I'm not
last year's.
confident that
That was
was
based
the
on last year's application.
proposed.
But again, remember, last year was one of those
Yes,
light
last
years.
This was based on last year's actual. Thank you for the clarification.
And so that's part of this issue about making sure that we have an evenness of scheduling.
Well, again, I think that goes back to the cycle. If last year was because of the cycle, we only had a light year, then next year we may actually have another year that triggers a lot more. So I think it then goes back to play to the cycle, because if not, if we only wrote the application to cover 2 and the protocol says 3, it may not tie as directly as we thought to the actual contract that we have. So I agree with Don and Jeff that we need to put something in there that ties us to the cycle that we've determined. Based on what Don is saying, we're going to a 4-year cycle.
Don?
That
Oh,
needs
I'm
to be
sorry,
there.
Joyce. What about just saying WECM course review workshops are conducted annually to achieve the 4-year cycle, or to meet the 4-year cycle, or within the 4-year cycle?
Or the requirement of the 4-year
yeah.
cycle or something.
So again, I think we look at this from another angle is, even if we're given less funds, the responsibility of this committee is to work with the fiscal agent to create processes that we get enough done and review those clusters that we have identified. And sometimes we may be restrained on the funds, but just like we did yesterday in our meeting, we reduced the amount of teams by doing a good analysis of what was needed. And instead of having, 5 workshops, we're down to, 3 or 4, possibly, yes. But I think it's the responsibility of this committee to work diligently to make sure that whatever funds we have, we work so we end up meeting the requirements of the grant. We may not have a choice.
Yeah, I agree, Rafael, but, the reality is you can reduce the number of workshops and increase the number of teams in fewer workshops, but that doesn't save you any money.
No, it won't.
Because you still have to pay for people in terms of hotel, food, all that kind of stuff. So, it boils down to the number of individuals that are involved over the length of a summer in these WECM workshops, these
conduct the
faculty
workshops.
members.
And that's why it's so important to have the cycle set in stone. I know it has to have some flexibility, but in order for budgeting issues and processes, when they get ready to write the next state leadership grant for the WECM processes for the following year, if they don't know what clusters are going to be done on the 4-year cycle, they don't have any workshops.
Right, and that's the reason why the task group has been working a year in advance to try to provide that to the leadership and then back to the project.
A comment, with apologies, I'm sorry I had to step out. It was an urgent call. But this protocol is about how frequently courses are reviewed, not how frequently workshops are conducted. And the need has always been to assure that the courses are reviewed. So, in reference to Catherine's recommendation, I think there's a place for it, but this protocol is about how frequently courses are reviewed. In reference to Catherine's recommendation that start with workshops are conducted annually.
So we need to then remove that whole statement about WECM workshop review? Or just
I think it's important
3 to 5?
I think it's important to indicate that they are reviewed annually.
I do too.
So leave that step part
I
in.
think it's important to say workshops are conducted annually, but the protocol is about course review.
That's correct. You're all right.
That's all I was saying.
That is correct.
So the order and
So again, dropping the 3 to 5 and just putting a period after annually? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I would say.
Or could you connect?
For course review or something.
Course review on a 4-year cycle.
So you start the paragraph with the last sentence. WECM course review workshops are conducted annually on a 4-year cycle to ensure currency. Is that what you're kind of saying?
You wouldn't want to repeat at the bottom.
I apologize. What was the objection to starting with WECM courses are reviewed on a 4-year cycle?
It had to do with 3 to 5 years.
Oh.
3 to 5
workshops per year.
I think we might have to have more than that.
Okay, so if you left it the way it was, WECM courses are reviewed on a 4-year cycle to ensure currency, but may be reviewed more frequently as indicated by triggers. And then you went to course review workshops are conducted annually as needed, or
that's what we were.
That's it.
That's what we were hoping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what that was saying. That was my
I wasn't
comment.
looking at it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I was responding to that.
Good. So, Kirk, are we
Got it. Got it.
confusing you?
Still have that one cross.
Got it.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
Okay, there we go. Yes.
Okay. All right. Is everybody straight on what this one is now? Okay. All right. Next protocol, 2-01-02. Subject is course review triggers. And again, based on comments from the leadership committee at large, when we had this discussion in August, was that there are too many duplications and replications of concepts of these triggers as it exists now in the protocol. And so part of what I was asked to do was to see if we could eliminate a few that represented duplications, and then also recognize that the program of study needed to be reflected as a part of the triggers. So the proposed changes are as follows. What the statement is, the specific timing of course review within a particular zip code is based on the following triggers. As a brand new number 1, I put in program of study workshop recommendations. Okay? And again, for the full leadership committee, basically what we've been discussing over the last year is the fact that we have a program of study project that will bring in business and industry folks and will bring in instructional specialists and content experts to take a look at a program of study areas. And the results of those workshops will serve as recommendations to the WECM workshops. Not a direct analogy, but in some ways similar to how we've been responding to recommendations from the CE WECM course reviews and presenting those recommendations to the workshop participants. And so that is proposed as trigger, excuse me, the new trigger number 1. Trigger number 2 and what used to be trigger number 3, I put together as one, and it's emerging and or changing technologies. Those used to be separate items. It seems just too much to sit there and itemize those when they can be right. So that's number 2, emerging and or changing technologies. So what used to be number 4 would be the new number 3, course frequency data. What used to be number 5 would now be number 4, course protocol.
But Dan, I have a question. This protocol is referring to the triggers for the course review, correct?
Correct.
So does course frequency data play a part in a trigger for a course review? Isn't that utilized in the workshop?
Intended to, and I think, and I had the same thought. I'm not sure we're actually doing that, but I would say if we do intend to use it, keep it in here, we ought to be looking at it. We probably ought to put course usage data, but I don't think we have really had that trigger review, and
no.
I would say delete it.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that we're looking at this based on the clusters, we're looking at it based on program study, we're looking at it based on emerging and changing technologies. We're really not looking at whether or not a college is using a course. So
no.
Right.
I'm not sure about that.
Right.
I think the intent was originally that if colleges only used the 4 semester credit hour version of a course or something like that, that we might trigger some review based on that, but we don't. It's not necessary. We don't do that, and so I don't think it's accurate.
I have a question. Will the course frequency data be subsumed into the work that's being done with the programs of study anyway?
Yeah, but in any event, it's not used as a trigger to move a
not a
course
standalone
out of
trigger.
This is triggers to move courses out of a cyclical.
Right.
Yeah, actually, folks, again, this is a little bit of history for those of us who have been in this rodeo before. If you'll see the original date of this was January 5th of 2004. Okay? That's 10 years ago, basically. Back at that point in time, folks, there was a concern that expressed by the state, folks around the state, and members of the leadership committee, I think at that time was, that we wanted to make sure that horses did get reviewed on some kind of a regular basis. And if for some reason horses didn't get reviewed over a certain period of time, then we were supposedly going to rely on these triggers as a main causative agent to have us bring a particular team to a workshop.
Right.
And so that's the reason why some of these things are in here. I think they are, in my own perspective, I think they're somewhat dated. I did not make the recommendation to change these because I felt like there needed to be this kind of discussion here first before just striking it.
Well, I would recommend striking it, and I would recommend striking course protocol, and I appreciate your respect for what was inherited. But as you point out, this is an old protocol. When it was created, we were in some part predicting, and we didn't know exactly, how, if we'd be able to review all the courses every 3 years, and if we couldn't, what would cause them to come forward and some things like that.
Right.
That one in particular, we don't use, right?
Right.
And it's a good point, Robin. But also, I'm not sure any of us could tell you what's exactly meant by course protocol in the list.
Exactly.
Right.
That was going to be my question.
And if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me, I'll go forward
Please.
and say that we don't need to say local need or business industry standards because we in fact don't use local need. We do use business industry standards, right?
Yes.
I appreciate, Don, you're striking out the modifying language in the old 7, new 6, and leaving it as state and national credentialing requirements. I think the new 7 is not the case. We don't review based on the comments. The comments allow us to get some information about these other things, and then we review based on these other things, right?
Right.
So I think you're well on the way to cleaning up the list of triggers. So it would go from program of study workshop recommendations to emerging and or changing technologies, business industry standards, state and national credentialing requirements, identified needs as indicated by statewide curriculum project. That's probably what I'd do is shorten that sentence. But
Right.
Thank you. I agree, Deana.
I have one question.
No.
These are actually course review triggers outside the normal rotation, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
Need
correct.
to be clarified here?
You can.
It's outside or in addition to or
Of the 4-year cycle.
Well,
I think that's a good point.
that is a good point, Steve.
Because it doesn't state that in there, yeah.
The fact is, at one time, for a period of time, for about 3 years or so, the only courses that got reviewed were those that were special topics and local needs. Changes.
First cycle.
Based on
And so, in fact, the protocol about the cycle that we just talked about was put in place once this issue was really brought to the statewide attention that courses were beginning to get out of date because that we were not really reviewing all the courses that need to be reviewed. We were only reviewing courses based on special topics, local need changes. But that is history, and so your point, I think, is well taken, that we need to make sure that the leadership committee and the folks who read this protocol manual understand that these triggers serve as extra or in addition to those courses that are reviewed based on our cycle process. So exact wording of that, do we have?
Yeah, go for it, Steve. Courses may go.
This is what Kirk's put in there.
Outside of the regular WECM.
Appreciate that, Kirk.
Yes.
Say in addition rather.
Yeah.
In addition rather than outside.
Or in conjunction, or
Yeah, something.
I like in addition to. I think that's a good clarifier. In addition to.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
It's a may.
Right.
Yeah.
Does the subject need to change at all? The top course review.
I'm wondering about rolling this under the previous protocol, which is review of WECM courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And without the whole protocol manual in front of me, but this is under 201, which is.
It is.
It's in the same section, so you could almost move that paragraph under Protocol 20101, right?
Yes.
Where you describe the four-year cycle, and then you say, in addition to review on the four-year cycle, course review.
Pull that whole thing up.
Pull that together and put the triggers under there.
Yep.
So we're looking at eliminating this protocol then.
Yeah.
Number and just merging that information.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
And then let's look at language real quickly. I think Kirk got us going.
Yeah.
WECM course review is indicated.
That is
May be
good.
reviewed more frequently as indicated by triggers outlined below.
Yeah.
That makes this protocol feel more complete.
Thank you.
When you get to Kirk, go up to your first paragraph.
So now you're identifying the triggers that are mentioned there.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
right.
Yeah. So you go up and, but maybe, okay, go up to your first paragraph. And
Yep.
it is indicated by triggers as outlined below.
Mm-hmm.
And then WECM course review workshops are conducted annually, and then you take out the first sentence before the numbered list.
Yep.
Is that cleaner?
Yep.
And I would not, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, because you've got the.
You've already mentioned the triggers.
You have the triggers referenced up above.
What a cleanup.
Yeah. That's great.
And you take the colon out after the term below because it's no longer
Yes.
a direct, as outlined below, period. Right. Or if you want to bring the sentence, WECM course review workshops are conducted annually below your number
below that.
list. If you, however you.
As a ending sentence?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We are at a good point where we want to go ahead and take a lunch break and come back and finish the protocol.
Okay. I vote for that. Yeah, yeah.
And we may want to correct, I will just say this in anticipation, I think you're right, Catherine. As we go forward into what may be a lengthy discussion, consider adopting Don's recommendation and having a group deal with this outside the committee as a whole and bring forward workshop model recommendations if it's, because it may go very lengthy, Catherine.
Yeah.
You may be right, yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a lunch break.
Yes, Protocol 2-02-01. That's course review models. Currently, we have 5 review models cited in the protocol. The last time we revised the protocol was January 21 of 2011. And based on our discussion back in August, we felt that Model 1 needed to certainly reflect the aspect of program of study workshops as far as Model 1 reviews are concerned. So the only change that I made based on that discussion at that time was, as you can see in the red, in the sentence that says, assigned to teams of 5 to 12 specialist team members must rank high on teaching skills and knowledge of subject areas, semicolon, be involved in program development and course design, and then I put in parentheses, such as state-authorized program of study workshop. Close parens, close the end of the recommended revision. The remainder of the sentence is semicolon, remaining current in the discipline, semicolon, and work cooperatively with colleagues. So this whole models protocol, if y'all wish to get more involved in making further revisions, is now on the table for discussion.
Don, I remember one time when I was looking at these, I was wondering how closely aligned the programs of study workshops were where you're bringing in business and industry with, I think it's Model 5. Yeah, and I was wondering if it was really the wording of Model 5 that needed to be tweeted a little bit, so that we're showing that we're bringing in industry professionals as part of that. Whereas I always think of Model 1 as the kind of the regular what we do to maintain the courses in WECM.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, Catherine.
Yeah.
But since Model 1s are the primary model that we work from, I think whatever changes, even if it's more expansive than what I put in here, if we want to pull more content out of Model 5 and drop Model 5 maybe, and include some of that language into Model 1, maybe that would respond to what you're talking about. I don't know, what's the rest of the committee's view?
Don, and I'm thinking, okay, so prior to, this trigger of a program of study, the
Right.
course review, obviously you're going to have industry involved in the program of study, right? That's the intent.
That is correct.
That's the intent.
That's the intent.
So what you're saying is possibly correct. Do we move the Model 5, some of the language up to the Model 1? And again, we're trying to eliminate unnecessary language here.
Right.
We just need to have a discussion around that, Catherine.
Right.
So,
But at the same time, if we move that up to Model 1, then are we asking that participation of industry professionals are in the Model 1? I don't agree with that.
No, that's not what I'm saying in regards to the, no, they're not. It's that the program of study is going to have that prior to going to the Model 1. That the program of study process will have industry involved. We don't have a choice. That's going to be part of the process.
Right. I think we still need to have that separation, though, between what we're doing in programs of study to provide that input into a WECM workshop and leave the WECM workshop Model 1 as it is and still have a Model 5 workshop with the influence of what programs of study will have on
Jeff, that's
Model
exactly
5 as
why
well.
I just did this parenthetical statement of saying such as state authorized program of study as
and that's what I'm saying is I agree with what
Right.
you're saying here.
Right.
Kurt,
Because
you had a comment?
The purpose of the Model 5 is not just industry involvement, it's new and emerging
That is correct.
content.
That is correct.
To me, that's what makes that a Model 5, and you've got the industry involved. So I don't think we do.
Actually, Dr. Faye Murphy and I actually were the ones who recommended to the leadership committee at that time, Model 5, when she and I were responsible as facilitators to work with business experts because we had no institutional experts in a particular technology area. And since there were no institutional instructional and specialists, we had to draw on business and industry experts as our subject matter experts. And that was in the semiconductor manufacturing. At that time, no institution in Texas had semiconductor manufacturing, so we didn't have faculty who were credentialed and trained in that area.
So going back to Kurt's comment, though, I think, yeah, that it needs to state, because the Model 5 is not necessarily going to be dealing with programs of study. It's not going to be dealing with programs of study.
No.
Not unless it was in a new and emerging program of study.
Yes.
What about this? What if the Model 5 process best addresses new and or emerging occupations and or skill sets, and it's somewhere in there, comma, or the development of programs of study and involves the participation of industry professionals and faculty? Because it's really, once the program of study is established, then you are back up to a Model 1 in terms of, again, maintaining the courses and all of that. It's the development of the program of study that used the Model 5 workshop, right?
Yeah, and
I'm
in
thinking
fact,
of the energy one.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think, to me, and again, this is just my perspective, is that we leave Model 5 just the way it is.
Okay.
And based on what I know of so far, the program of study project, in essence, the program of study project is using the WECM Model 5 as the model template for holding program of study workshops. But that's a separate project, and so I think we need them, leave them separate, and that's what I believe Jeff is talking about.
Yeah, that's where I was going to say is,
trigger. That's it.
Yep.
Like any other trigger that we have, it
Right.
is two
We're
different
not
separate
combining
projects.
them yet.
So
Right.
we're not making it
Not yet.
a priority among triggers.
Certainly not yet.
yeah.
Any other comments? So we're going to move on to the next protocol. That's the only change to this protocol, is that one sentence in the Model 1.
Okay. Protocol 2-0302. The subject of this protocol is course revision. And again, just looking at what we have just discussed in terms of the review cycle in the previous protocol we discussed, I just modified this particular one phrase to say instructional specialists review each semester credit hour and CEU course at least every 4 years instead of 3 for currency, frequency of utilization, and needed modifications.
May I make a comment? In the spirit of how we conduct the workshop, when we say do no harm, if you note in here, we keep mentioning grammar, spelling, punctuation, grammar, spelling, punctuation. Do we need to add anything in here so that a person will come back and say, I want this revised because it's missing an and or a comma or something, where we typically don't do that? Do we need to stipulate that or not?
Robin, it's interesting. I was going to suggest we remove the flow. If you want to use it as a workshop tool to say, here's a good way to go about our business.
Yeah.
I hate to do that because this is a Dorothy McNutt flow chart.
Right.
But it was really put in there as a teaching tool, not
Right.
a protocol requirement.
Right.
And
I agree, Deana.
I think that would address your concern because it's in a protocol, but I'm not sure that needs to be in a protocol. We've taken a lot of those out. We had them over
Right.
years. It leads to thinking that is a required approach, and facilitators approach things in different sequence and so forth. This is a good approach, but
Right.
I would say just take the whole flow chart out.
What's the thinking
I
of
think
the,
it'll get us away from that kind of drill
Right.
down
Yeah.
detail
Right.
that you're worried
what's the
about.
thinking of the full committee on that? Just to remove it?
Yep, I agree.
Very good. Next protocol is 4-02-01. The subject of this protocol is WECM Leadership Committee qualifications of members. Last revised June 15th of 2005. And the current protocol has 3 qualification bullets to it, and the recommended change is to add a 4th bullet. So let me just go through it. First bullet says hold a directly related administrative assignment in a Texas community or technical college. The second bullet says be recognized for noteworthy accomplishments, leadership, and professional standing in the field of workforce education. The third bullet says possess demonstrated competence in WECM implementation at the institutional level. And the new bullet that's being recommended is to state as follows. Currently on list of qualified WECM workshop facilitators, or is a facilitator in training who has participated in that role at a WECM workshop and received above average rating for performance. Now,
we use that.
Yes.
I mean, that's a qualification we consider.
Right.
As demonstrated competency.
Right.
I would just for clarity, not even clarity, brevity of language, just say currently a qualified WECM workshop facilitator or facilitator in training who has participated, etc. In other words, it kind of begs where's the list?
Yeah.
And maybe kind of along the lines of what you were saying.
Yeah.
People might want to see a list published or whatever,
Yeah.
which is another thing to maintain.
Okay.
I'm sure there is a list, but.
So, Kurt, did you catch that? Okay.
The other, I hope this isn't too nitpicking, but each of those are a verb except the new one.
Yeah.
So would it,
I'm sorry, Duane, I didn't hear.
they all start with verbs.
Yeah.
Hold, be, possess.
Yeah, yeah. Be qualified.
Be qualified. Yep.
Be a qualified WECM
Right.
workshop facilitator or a facilitator in training.
Yeah.
So you'll need to take plural off of that first reference
Yep.
to.
Facilitator, okay.
Good catch, Duane. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, everybody all right with this one? Okay. The final one is Protocol 4-02-03, WECM Leadership Committee Structure, last revised last year, actually March 30th of 2012. When the WECM Leadership Executive Committee met to talk about this elections process that we just did earlier, we found that there needed to be some clarification of the protocol as we have it right now. So let me go through this and try to explain it to y'all as I go. Currently, the protocol says the WECM Leadership Committee consists of 17 voting members. The WECM Leadership Committee has 3 officer positions: chair, chair-elect, immediate past chair. We are recommending to the Leadership Committee to expand the Executive Committee to include the following, and that's in this sentence. The 3 officers plus the fiscal agent and the designated THECB representative constitute the Executive Board. How does everybody feel about that?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Then the next sentence, before assuming an officer position on the executive board, and basically this was just kind of a adding the language "and officer."
Which you need because of the two new positions
Right,
on the executive
right.
board.
Yeah.
Before assuming an officer position on the executive board, a member must have served a minimum of 2 years on the WECM Leadership Committee. So the rest of the sentence is the same. It's just stating as an officer. Now that this other language talks about expanding the executive committee. I think it's worthy of note, and especially maybe for folks who are listening in, based on the elections that we had earlier, the protocol has already stated that 4 member positions on the committee, of the 17 in essence, are reserved for individuals recommended and representing the boards of the Texas Association of Texas Association of College Technical Educators, TACTE, Texas Administrators of Continuing Education, TACE, and Texas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, TACRO, and the fiscal agent representative of the WECM project. Okay, so those are the 4 membership positions. So then you have the 17, you have the 3 officer positions, you have the 4 membership positions, 3 of which come from the professional organizations and 1 as the fiscal agent of the project. So the remaining 10 members serve as members at large. And the protocols continues to say new members at large are nominated by the executive board, and nominations are approved and voted on by the WECM Leadership Committee, as which we did earlier. The next paragraph says, members at large positions 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 are selected on even number years. Members at large positions 4, 8, 9, and 10 are selected on odd number years. And then this is the recommended new sentence. The executive board may recommend to the WECM Leadership Committee a nominee to serve out the remainder of the term for a vacated position. This is actually what we were faced with, folks, when we did this election. You see that there were 3 individuals that were placed before this committee in nominations to fill out vacated positions for another year of the 2-year term. But our protocol never took into account vacated positions, resignations, those kinds of things. So this is just to make sure that the protocol reflects correctly what we do when there is a position that's vacated. Then the remainder of the protocol stays the same. Members at large may serve 2 consecutive terms, and unless selected to an executive board position, members at large have an option to serve a second 2-year term. After serving 4 consecutive years, a member must sit out at least 1 year. To support the WECM process, provide historical experience, all past chairs can serve a term at the request of the WECM Leadership Committee. Likewise, the executive board may nominate up to 3 ex officio members to support current WECM needs. And as reflected earlier, we have not had an ex officio position filled in several years, and we just did that with Catherine O'Brien being elected.
This came up in our executive meeting, and I want to be sure that we are covering this in this 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph. Because we were talking about the 1-year positions.
Right.
Are we saying that in the sentence that you added, an executive board may recommend to the wait a minute, no. Okay, the next one. Members at large may serve 2. Is that full consecutive terms?
Yes.
Okay.
2 2-year consecutive terms.
Well, you could essentially serve 5 years.
5 years, right. Then. So it's 1 year, 2 year, and then 2 year.
Right.
Do we need to clarify that, or is that clear enough in this paragraph?
You could say may serve a maximum of 2 full 2-year consecutive terms, something like that. Or, well, maximum indicates you can't ever come back. Here's like may serve.
Up
Two, well, then just put 2-year consecutive terms. Would that be it, Robin?
Yeah, I think that would, if we just put the 2-year in parentheses, that might clear it up.
I would say, kind of along the same vein, that last sentence probably needs to say after serving. Well, here, this is contradictory if we do that. Look at
That's
the
right.
next sentence.
That's
So,
right. That's the reason why.
after serving 2-year consecutive terms, right? A member must sit out for 1 year, and then I would add before being nominated again. In other words, that implies you're automatically back on. You're not.
Right.
It's prior to being nominated again.
Right.
Robin, does this do it? Members at large may serve 2-year
Yes.
consecutive terms unless elected to, that would be elected to an executive board position.
Good.
Members at large have an option to serve a second 2-year term. Is that redundant? No, because you actually, after you are out for a while, you could come back and serve more, and the maximum would limit that. After serving 2-year consecutive terms, a member must sit out for 1 year before being nominated again.
Yeah,
Is
and
that
take
right?
out that member at large have an option to serve a second.
Yeah, I think the member at large sentence is redundant, Kirk. Do you think, Joyce? Is
Yes,
it
I do.
Okay. Let's see where we are. Let's see what Kirk
Yeah,
said.
let's look at the.
It's strictly grammatical, but the "and" need to comes out in front of unless.
I would put before being eligible for nomination.
Yes.
Again, yeah, whatever, yeah. There you go. Thank you, Kirk. Very well done. Where's the "and"?
Right in front of unless selected, or didn't you say elected?
Elected, uh-huh.
I think it's, and I don't, that "and" shouldn't be
Elected.
there.
Right.
Elected instead of selected, Kirk, in that same sentence. And then we wanted to move out, delete the sentence that starts members at large have.
Have option.
And just a point of clarification, and I don't think it needs to edit the protocol. Our ex officio members have all the rights of other members.
Right.
They come on by virtue of appointment. So
Right.
they don't come on the board in the same way.
Right.
But they have the right to vote, debate,
Right.
et cetera. Okay.
Do we need to clear that?
That's what ex officio means, but it's
Right.
often misunderstood.
It is often
non-voting.
misunderstood. Right.
It does not mean non-voting.
It has to stay. You will see in some organizations where it says ex officio non-voting
Voting
member.
member, yes.
That has to be a clarifier. Otherwise, ex officio means that they have the full rights of a regular member.
It just refers to how they get on the board.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
then the first sentence might need to be modified.
What's that?
Don't want to present a perceived conflict between fiscal agent and voting members on voting on something.
Fiscal. She's not the fiscal agent. Jeff is.
No, I
No,
was,
in general, she's saying in general, yes. So it's clear.
But the first sentence says consists of 17 voting members.
Make that at least.
Yes.
Yeah,
At
there you
least.
go. Joyce, too, I understand that you would recognize the fiscal agent as a voting member. Is that?
I said, what you want to do is make sure that there is no perceived conflict of interest when we're voting on something that is concerning fiscal agent and the fiscal agent has a vote at the table.
So we would expect
them to
abstention.
abstain. Yes.
Abstention.
Recuse
And that's-
themselves from the
that's-
vote.
Especially if we have ex-officio members and the fiscal agent is a voting member, there should be an expectation that the fiscal agent abstains from voting on matters that are related to.
Conflict of interest.
Right.
Good point. Yes.
At least
Sure, if that-
17.
That means that if we have unfilled positions and we don't have 17,
Well,
That's saying
it
at
doesn't say
least.
filled, it just says at least position. Oh, it consists of 17 voting members. Could you say consists of at least 17
Well, up to.
voting
Well,
positions?
positions.
Position, yes.
Or is composed of, if you don't have, if you have empty seats.
And if you
Still-
use
it's still
positions
composed.
instead of members?
Yeah. I like yours, is composed of 17 voting
Positions.
positions.
No, we just made an ex officio voting position. It's at least,
Right.
of at least, okay, good, I'm good, yeah.
Yep.
So on
Well,
this
we have
protocol,
17 then.
one thing that I noticed, we never did have, we never added a TA agent, right? We never had the TA agent in.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So we don't have to modify anything.
No.
They're liaisons.
Yes.
13 here
Right.
today.
No.
Well, the liaisons are voting.
No,
No.
they're not.
No.
Well, Faye has a question. How many positions do we actually have?
Well, if the liaisons aren't voting, then it's not 17 voting members.
That's right, there you go.
Well, why did we say the liaisons are not voting?
I would just ask.
No, wait a minute.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
see
6,
18.
7, 8, 10,
Plus the,
11, 12, 13.
I think I didn't count.
oh, okay.
I was
14.
counting here and then going back and picking up. We have 15
We just don't
people
mention the
here.
liaison.
no, it talks
Oh,
about the
okay.
four.
The coordinating, okay.
We just
the
made
four
the
membership
coordinating board is not a
positions.
voting member.
17.
He said
Okay.
it should be.
Okay.
It should be.
I come up with
It's
18.
The 3 officers.
Yeah, okay, I
Right.
see.
The 4
Four-
memberships and
10 at large.
Are
Yeah.
17.
So we do have 17?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Plus the fiscal agent.
No, fiscal agent's one of the 4.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Paragraph 2, Jeff.
That's correct.
So where are the liaisons?
With the coordinating board liaison? That's only listed, the only place that's listed is in the executive committee for the.
Right.
3 officers plus the fiscal agent and the
So the liaison is not a voting member.
That's right.
Right, that's what I was
That's
saying.
right, okay.
Right.
I'm sorry. I was thinking you were talking about the liaisons from
18?
TACE, TACTE.
No, no.
Okay.
I would suggest it's not relevant that we number, but that rather that we designate what we have. And so consider removing the composed of blank members. You have officer positions, you have liaison positions, you have ex officio positions, and you have at-large positions.
Right.
That will cause a number to fluctuate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you need to designate that you have a minimum of 17 voting members? There's no reason to do that.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
I think, Deana, when we did this the last time, it was because we were trying to straighten out who was who.
Yeah.
And
And that may be old language that's been
Yeah.
around a while,
Right.
but I'm not sure we need it.
So if we delete the first sentence and start with the WECM Leadership Committee has 3 officer
Officer
positions.
positions, yeah.
Next paragraph talks about,
Yeah. I like that.
yeah,
Because you still, it's same, but
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
end up in this
yeah.
vote, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have now gone through
Here's the
the
recommendations.
recommended protocol changes as discussed.
Is that all done?
Yes. And you know, this is always the most painful part of these meetings, the protocols. We understand that. And even if we only did 2 during the entire year, it took us quite a
These
bit
are
of
very important.
verbiage to get it right. So, Don, on behalf of the whole committee, we want to thank you for
Yes.
taking this on and getting us back on track. We know there's a lot of changes. There may be more changes coming as we go through the changes in the legislature and the coordinating board. So we're getting ready to take a vote on all these protocols. So
I'll move approval as revised by the committee of the whole.
I'll second.
Okay, any comment before we take the final vote here?
Thank you, Don.
Thank you,
Good
Don.
work.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank
Don.
you.
Well, actually, I want to thank y'all because the work today, I just presented basically what was a rough draft for discussion, but it's the feedback today that made improvements on what was presented. So thank y'all.
I'd also like to thank Kirk for keeping up with all of
Oh,
that.
yes,
Yes,
Kirk.
He did a wonderful
Absolutely.
job.
It's amazing.
Yes.
There's only one proviso. Please hit save.
After every change, I should be going back and put the revised dates now today.
Yes.
Right,
Date would
that's
be the
correct.
date. Mhm.
I have a question at this point. Will you be distributing the final draft, or will that just
Yes.
become a part of it? Okay, thank you very much, because we need that real soon.
Right.
And those need to go on the WECM protocol page, right?
Sir?
For now.
For
yes,
now, that's
yes,
correct.
Yes. And then Faye, you'll be the one who works with Duane to get them on the protocol website.
Okay, thank you for reminding me.
Okay, so Deana moved that we go ahead and take the vote. Robin was second. So let's take the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Made Deana made the motion.
Yeah, Deana did.
Deana made the
Robin
motion.
second.
Robin
Second.
second.
So the motion passes, and we will be getting updates from Don and
Right.
Faye on this. Okay,
Just go on to the protocol website, right?
yes.
Eventually,
Duane
yeah.
takes care of that for us.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Duane will get them,
Well, you get them.
I'll get them to you, and then you post them. Okay, thank you,
The
Duane.
final document, yes. Okay, the next item on our agenda, as we come to almost the end of the day here, is the committee on the update of the the task group on the summer workshops. Don and Deana are going to be briefing us
Yes.
on the work we did yesterday. I believe we have handouts, or maybe not, maybe
Yeah.
not. Did we?
We do have handouts on the
The new.
the
And
cluster.
yes, we do.
Don, you're going to set.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of, Deana and I serve as, some of y'all know and understand, we've been serving for a couple of years as co-chairs of the leadership subcommittee that we're a task group in essence to work on recommending to the full leadership committee our movement towards structuring our summer workshops to reflect courses in zip codes that are in cluster areas, career cluster areas. Again, as kind of historical note, before we started doing this, courses, even though they were reviewed on this 3-year cycle, the teams of faculty who were brought in based on the zip codes of those courses there was no specific rhyme or reason for which teams came into which workshops. But when we started to take into consideration that our courses exist in programs, and those programs exist within career pathways under the major 16 career clusters, it became evident to the WECM Leadership Committee several years ago that we really needed to be bringing in faculty in courses and reviewing courses based on the fact that those courses have some relationships to one another in programs of study, within career pathways, within a particular cluster area. And so we started working from a chart that we worked on back in 2011 to look at the number of clusters and grouping those clusters and then creating workshop teams based on those cluster relationships. So we did that, and in 2011 we worked on it for workshop for 2012. 2013 we worked in 12 to come up with what needs to be reviewed in 2013. And then this year we've been meeting to present to you those workshops for next summer in 2014. And the chart that we've been working from highlighted career clusters 8, which is health science, 10, human services, 15, which is STEM. We had also, originally when we tried to set all this up way back in November of 2011, had also included Cluster 13, Arts, AVT, and Communications, and Cluster 11, which is Information Technology. But when we, as the task group, started working earlier in the summer, realized that if we were actually, for the first time, going to be looking at, for example, all the clusters in the related health science, human services, and STEM areas, that was going to be a full set of summer workshops just by themselves. And that was one of the reasons, folks, now that I refresh your memory as to why we went to the recommendation for the protocol change to a 4-year cycle instead of a 3-year cycle, was to, again, look at evening out the number of workshops and the teams and so on. So, in essence, what we've been working on are in clusters 8, 10, and 15. And so we've been working on those this summer. Met again yesterday, and with some great help from Duane, as well as help from Robin, and the work that we did this summer in terms of looking at the data. And folks, this is what drives what we recommend, is based on the data that we can pull, starting with looking at all the courses in those zip codes, in those programs of study areas, in those clusters. And it's a lot of data to look at. And in fact, so much that Robin was the one who helped us by using pivot tables, which not too many of us really know how to do.
Faye is the new expert.
Yes.
Faye is gaining speed.
Yeah. But anyway, having said all of that, the work yesterday, we had some major objectives, and one was to true up the numbers that we were looking at when we met in August, to make sure that we had good feel for the actual teams and numbers and all of that. Second thing we wanted to do was to address Model 2 issues, and we discussed that, and Deana is going to be presenting the information that we came up with, and the task group did a fantastic work this summer and yesterday for sure. Deana?
Yeah, thanks, Don. The task group, I think actually we're going to change our titles from co-chairs to whips.
Yeah.
The task group consists of Don Perry, Kirk White, Joyce Williams, Robin Garrett, Duane Hiller, Jeff Parks, Rafael Brisita, and Faye Murphy, and I was there too. And
Terry.
Terry Nix. Terry, your name's right here, and I just didn't read it. I'm sorry. And Terry Nix. I don't know how I could overlook you. Anyway, it was a lot of work. This is our third meeting on how to prepare for next summer, and this one's been a stinker. As Don said, I want to kind of go back before we get into the actual workshops and so forth and talk about part of this organization by career cluster and programs of study is a new workshop model that enables us, when it's appropriate, to leave teams in a big room together to review what we call shared courses. These are courses that are used by multiple. One program of study may own the course, but other programs that own it in terms of it's in their zip code, and they're the ones who typically review it and revise it and rewrite it. But it's used by other programs of study. So what we've been able to do by using a career cluster approach is keep teams together to review those kinds of courses when it's appropriate. We didn't particularly have a lot of that this last summer because the teams were pretty siloed and they didn't do a lot of course sharing. Going into this summer, we have another creature to deal with, and that's what we're calling cluster core courses. As you all know, the health sciences make heavy use of courses with an HPRS rubric and an SCIT rubric. And those are courses that you can legitimately say are not created or owned by any single program of study, but they're used across multiple programs of study. Right. So going into these workshops, we need our process for reviewing shared courses, but we also needed a process for how do we allow all these users of HPRS and SCIT to have input to the structure of those, because they're critical to many, many programs. So that said, I'm going to ask Kirk if he'll just give. Kirk and Robin developed a process for allowing all the different teams. And Terry, were you in that group? And Terry Nix. Let me restate that. Terry Nix chaired the subject.
Terry was the driving force behind Joyce and myself. Yes.
And Joyce, you were too. All right. I'm sorry. I have a note that says Robin and Kirk's work or something.
Yeah, that's my mistake.
Oh, okay.
I gave credit where it wasn't due.
Joyce, Terry, thank you. Is it all right with you if Kirk gives us an overview?
Absolutely.
All right.
Are you sure you want me to handle this?
Go ahead with it, Joyce.
I am fine with it.
You two leaders share the glory well. I want Kirk to kind of give you an overview of that before we talk about the workshops, because then you're going to understand the structure of the workshops a little better, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And again, because health sciences is so huge, there was no way to apply this shared course process because we can't have them all in the same room at the same time because they're going to be spread over several workshops. So, in lieu of that, we have set up another process to allow each of the zip code teams within healthcare to have input into the HPRS and SCIT courses throughout the summer. And so the way this is going to work is that all instructional specialists attending the workshops will have the opportunity to comment on the current HPRS and SCIT courses. Each team is going to use a feedback form created by Terry, by the way, our fearless leader, to comment on any part of those courses, HPRS or SCIT, that affect their programs directly. They're not going to comment on all of them, but just the ones that feed into or have an effect on their program. And as the workshops go along, these documents will be collected and sorted by course so that when we get to the end of the workshop cycle, the actual faculty who teach HPRS and SCIT will come in for their workshop but have all of this documentation available to them as they're reviewing their own courses. So basically, they're voting in abstention on changes that can be considered by the faculty that teach HPRS and SCIT, who will come in on the last day of the last workshop of this summer. Yeah.
Good. Questions about process?
And what you will see once you get into the structure of the workshops, we have several Model 2s that actually won't physically be attending, but this same process will happen virtually as they're doing their virtual Model 2 workshops.
Yes. because those, and we'll talk about Model 2, as you'll recall, that's programs that are taught by very few colleges. They use those same courses. Thank you, Terry. That was a good report. And Joyce. And I'd like to point out Catherine O'Brien's been an absolute
Most all of
stalwart
them.
member of the task group, but was not able to join us yesterday.
Not yesterday, sorry.
In fact, we lived by her notes.
We did.
We can't do it without her notes. So what we did is, it was really hard to get our arms wrapped around this, and we've been through several stages of the process, but by yesterday what we were able to do is using spreadsheets that Robin and Duane had updated for us, was to review, to actually identify the different teams by program of study kind of groupings, look at the courses that would be assigned to teams, and then move from that to create workshops, keeping in mind that, 5-6 teams at a workshop is reasonable. We can do 7 if we need to. 8's the absolute maximum, and that really strains our ability to have facilitators and lead facilitators on site. So after a lot of work and weeding out things that we could deal with through Model 2 approaches, we came up with 4 workshops for next summer. And I'm going to tell you what these are, but I'm also going to tell you these are preliminary still, because we need some time for staff to work with Duane to make sure that we were working with accurate numbers and numbers of colleges and things like that, because it's a pretty fluid setting when you're trying to do this, in a committee venue. And so we could have overlooked some things. So we want them time to have time to review it and make sure that we were working with everything accurate and we're on the ball on top of it. To the extent possible this summer, we put teams together who have shared courses. Remember, we think a whole lot of teams use these core courses, but we also had to put teams together who use shared courses. So that puts some constraints on who goes together in a workshop, so that we can, at a workshop, go ahead and still do that shared course review. We came up with 4 good-sized, healthy workshops, and these are the preliminary workshop and team assignments. Workshop 1 will be registered nursing, licensed vocational nursing, nurse assistant, surge tech, rad tech, and diagnostic medical sonography. And we think we'll get that one done at the end of May. Workshop 2, all the health information programs of study will be together in a team. That, when I say programs of study, the certificate and the degrees will all be represented, and all those courses are in that group. Farm tech, medical clinical assistant, clinical medical lab tech, biotech, biotech lab tech, and emergency medical technology will be the second workshop. Workshop 3, dental assisting, dental hygiene, massage therapy, occupational therapist assistant, physical therapist assistant, and then a group of the social work, substance abuse counseling, psychiatric technician. We put all those together into a single team because we think all those folks are using those courses and teaching those courses. And that would be workshop 3. Workshop 4 consists of a lot of teams that don't have commonalities with those previous teams as much in terms of shared courses. And in workshop 4, we're going to bring back in the cluster core faculty. So that workshop will be vet tech, barbering, cosmetology, and then the HPRS and the SCIT teams to do the cluster core review. Now, to get it down to this, we had to acknowledge that in this cluster we have a lot of Model 2s to do. As you'll recall, we just talked about models. Model 2s are when you have a very small number of colleges, typically 4 or fewer, but in this case I think we have one Model 2 that has 6 colleges, but the courses are very standardized, and there's not a lot of activity going on in terms of changes in the courses. Everybody uses the same courses. Model 2s, we began this last year doing it for the most part in a virtual format, so it involves being able to have webinar type tools available. We'll have to incorporate into that Model 2 format the cluster core review. too. So we looked at that while we were looking at what can you manage through a Model 2. Model 2s that we identified are radiation therapist, cardiovascular tech, polysomnography. How's that, Kirk?
I'm impressed.
Let him teach me how to say that. Nuclear medical tech, long-term care administration, health unit coordinators, medical staff services tech, public health general, funeral service and mortuary science, adult development and aging, that's gerontology, the ophthalmic dispensing, and optometric technician assistant, and then dental lab tech. Those are all Model 2s we hope to get done now. Going back to this last year, we went to the new Model 2 framework. This is a large menu of Model 2s, okay? One of the things we realized we did not do right this last year is we kicked off a lot of Model 2 work in the summer. And you can't get hold of faculty in the summer to do Model 2s, and you absolutely just have to get hold of them and be able to talk to them and email them or have a webinar with them. So we're going to kick off these Model 2s earlier in the year. What we did do to facilitate that kind of early movement on that is we put these together into groups, and people on the task force agreed to manage these groups, either conducting the Model 2 workshops themselves or finding seasoned facilitators to recommend to the project staff to conduct them. So, for example, I said I would manage the long-term care administration. I'll either plan to do it if that's what I need to do, but first I'll consider whether I could recruit a seasoned facilitator to recommend to the staff on that. So we grouped them, and right now the people responsible for managing this Model 2, these Model 2s are Joyce Williams, Terry Nix, Robin, Garrett, and me. And so I think we have our cluster covered. It was a lot of work, and it's taken a lot of sorting out to get it to this point. Questions about where we're headed? These will get posted as soon as there's just been a little bit more time to make sure everything's accurate.
Deana, the question about dates, we didn't really speak about specific dates yet regarding the regular workshops and also the Model 2, but we did discuss the issue of getting the Model 2 recruitment very soon.
We did discuss late May, early June, mid-June, and late June, having everything wrapped up by the end of June. And we put some dates down, but I think we'd probably like to hold those a little bit to these.
We haven't finalized that yet.
Yeah, they need to look at facilities and so forth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things too, folks, that we talked about is the nominations process, and Faye Murphy will be working with some folks at San Jacinto College who assisted this last year in working on the web-based nominations form. One of the critical elements, folks, for any WECM workshop is really dependent on the fact that out in the field we have administrators and deans, directors who are nominating individuals who have the expertise for the courses that are going to be reviewed. And part of the discussion that we had was that sometimes those folks are not as conversant with just the rubric and the course number per se. Very often they can say, yeah, I have faculty that teach this course by course title, and the course title rings clearer, truer to the dean than if we just put up 4 letters and 4 numbers, a whole list of 4 letters and 4 numbers. So part of this effort is going to be a branching process in the nominations form that will start with the zip code numbers and then work down so that we can get the rubric, course number, and course title, so that when people are saying, I'm nominating this faculty member, And we're going to ask that they actually mark off on a drop-down box a specific course by not just course rubric and number, but name. My instructor that I'm nominating has expertise in this course, and this course, and this course. And that way, when the project staff sits down and looks at the potential of a workshop team makeup, the staff will be able to discern whether we have some gaps or whether we've got it all covered. Because that's been the one Achilles heel that we deal with from time to time in some of our workshops. Is we've made a valiant effort to secure statewide nominations. But it almost is a surprise when at the workshop we hear from the team, oh, but after discussion, nobody is teaching these 3 or 5 or 7 courses that's on that team that day.
That has been a major issue the last couple of years. If you get, a lot of you facilitate those groups. You get a team that can't review the courses, it really locks down the process.
Right.
We definitely had some issues, and I know last year Dawn and I and a couple of you had to help calling across the state and just trying to get people identified because we just couldn't get. It was really painful, especially because we started the process, normal time in the summer. We can't afford to do that. It was very painful in some of these areas, and I know some of the facilitators that did the Model 2s, they were even calling us saying, I'm giving up. I don't know what to do. I know that Joyce went at her, she was hounding people across the state. I remember you talking to us about it.
No, it's part of our commitment.
And so that's the other thing that the task group made a recommendation to the project staff is that the nomination launch for the workshops be done in early spring semester so that we have the attention of the deans and directors early on. Because if we get too far into the semester, especially if we approach spring break month, and it is, folks, it's mostly a month. When you look at everybody, I went out and looked. I just did a survey across the state. All of our institutions, some of them do first week of March, some do the second week of March, some do the third week of March. So basically, you can run off the month of March. So those nominations really have to be done and back before March starts.
Don, also, I know we've already reviewed the 3-year to 4-year cluster. Do you feel like you got to say, the task group also looked at this new cluster grouping, and having had lots of experience trying to get these workshops designed using career cluster approach, I think the task group felt very comfortable with moving to the 4-year cycle and to the way these are arranged now in terms of being able to operate the WECM review process with these kinds of groupings together. So that was it. A good time was had by all.
I have a comment regarding, I know there's 3 of you that are liaisons with the coordinating board. As you meet, especially as we move with these new procedures, make it known to some of these other liaisons. I mean, the information is going to come out. Obviously, it's going to be on the webpage. It's being broadcasted right now. But the more people we get informed, the easier it's going to be for the project staff to, be able to get the nominations in on time, especially with the Model 2s, because they're so specific. So please, I know there's 3 of you here. Catherine's here, and Dawn and Deana. Please get that out.
I am not sure where we go with the task group work in the future. I think, we have a great transition here to a new fiscal agent, new leadership with Dawn and so forth. So, but I do apologize, Terry, for overlooking you and Joyce, your work on this. This task group is phenomenal. It's just amazing. It is. We got here pretty early yesterday morning and worked until pretty late, and everybody was pretty exhausted before it's over. And it's been like that over and over. So I'd like to acknowledge
I would too, Deana, as a co-chair as well of this group. And I would also like to single out as well the work of Duane Hiller and his contribution.
We wore him out yesterday. It's true. You just could not get that kind of working group in any other setting, and
Right.
it's been a lot has gotten done.
I think I told Joyce in the elevator yesterday, it really came to me that the phrase, "we are smarter than I am," was true yesterday at that meeting, because we showed up and Robin and I were also discussing it. Boy, this is going to take a lot, but all of us pulled together, and appreciate the work from everybody. The two leads, you guys did a great job, Deana and
Very good.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
This is going to be a productive summer. So with that, we're going to close this item on the agenda. Move on to the next item. Does anybody have a comment before?
Do we need to move to accept this?
The work of the committee?
Yes.
Well, it's a recommendation actually to the project.
Right.
So I don't know that you do, but
Do we need, what did she say?
move to accept it. Because the project could modify it some, Catherine,
Yeah.
based on actual data that we may have overlooked or something. So.
And also because of being the physical agent, the project could also change that based on the budgeting and other things that may be there. So
The one item, however, I think it is important is to consider whether we want to move
Right.
this
Yes.
as a recommended the 4-year cycle, and that's a
Right.
good one. I do think a motion would be in order, and we could bring that from the task group, right? So then,
Right.
as a committee of
Right.
the whole, so it wouldn't need a second, so we'll bring forth that recommendation that we move to the 4-year cycle based on these groupings that were presented earlier.
So the motion is to accept the second page that you have there on the new cycles, and we move some of the clusters around. Okay, and the motion, do I have a motion?
So moved. Who made the motion?
Catherine?
Well, or we could move it from the committee. It's
Right.
just up to you. Go ahead, it's fine.
Second?
I'll second.
Harry?
Yay.
Yeah, any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So the second page there is accepted as presented. Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, the next item is new business on the agenda. Does anybody have anything on new business?
You know, I just got just a kind of a point of clarification. As we start to move to the 60 hours, and we're running into courses where we want to go to different credit hour combinations, when a course is not presently being offered in a particular credit hour offering, what is our process for putting that course back into WECM to offer it as a different credit hour option? If it's put in as a
Workshop review.
It's a workshop review.
So it only has to be done during workshop review?
But I heard someone mention local needs, right? Do we
It was a
read-
question
You can
to the
do
WECM
local-
committee.
Well, you could do local need, but I
Right.
don't know if you'd have to have a rationale for the coordinating board to approve it, right? Yeah.
question of clarification, are you saying that this course was once in the WECM and has been archived? Or is it a new course that you were putting in the WECM? And I think the processes are different.
A different
This
version.
was a course that was offered in the past as a 4-5 option, and also a two credit hour option. The 2 credit hour option was archived. The 5 credit hour option was archived, and it's only in there as a 4 credit hour option now. So the question is it's presently being offered in the curriculum as a 4 credit hour option. They would like to change it to a 3 credit hour option with the change in lecture lab ratio, but that option isn't available in WECM.
Question. We've just done a protocol that states that there must be a 3-4 combination, a 4-5 combination.
Maybe, I believe.
Maybe. Okay, thanks for the
Maybe.
clarification.
I don't think all courses exist in
They
two
don't.
forms.
There are some that exist
Required
only
lab.
as one.
Yeah, you're right. They want it that way.
So the two issues, one, we mentioned the local needs, right? That's one way. But if a course has been archived, we are not supposed to bring it back for issues of transcription. We're
That's right.
talking back about issues with
That's right.
students.
But this option has not been archived.
Which one?
The 3 credit hour option.
Has not.
It was just never there.
It doesn't
It was
exist.
never,
Doesn't
it was
exist.
never there.
Okay, so it only exists as a 4-hour,
Reviewed
right?
in workshops.
And there was,
Yes.
okay, let me make sure I'm understanding this.
What course is it?
There was a 4-5 combination. The 5-hour combination was archived.
Yes.
A 3-hour combination was never created to
No.
go with the 4. And so right now you just have a 4-hour, and you're trying to reduce.
Well,
Okay.
however, the course has been reviewed,
Right.
and the instructional specialists have said
Yes.
we only want
4
a
credit.
4 semester credit hour
Version.
option. That's all we want.
Local needs.
So to submit a local, you can't, I mean, we've had this happen. We know
Right.
we have. We've had colleges submit local needs and
Sure.
say, give a compelling reason to the coordinating board that I need this course in a different range, and then that gets reviewed.
Right.
That process would stand.
Right.
That
I
is the
think
process.
we need to be aware of the fact that colleges will be looking this direction and be careful not to override the judgment of instructional specialists in the interest of reducing semester credit hours only. It's going to be a tough few
Yeah.
years.
It's gonna be tough.
hard.
That's why I brought the question up, because I think this 60-hour rule is going to bring
Absolutely
this
is.
question.
I think Duane better get ready for a avalanche of local needs
Avalanche.
courses.
Yes.
I do think, again, as we
Right.
tighten up the protocols and see this process going, there is a proper process. And thank you, Deana,
Yeah.
for making sure that we abide by the processes, abide by the protocol, and that no one college can override those protocols and how they're set forward.
I think that's just what's important. As I shared with Jeff on the break, y'all have a wealth of information sitting here, a long history. So for some, it's common knowledge, rolls off your tongue, but in others,
Sure.
as I supervise the fire science program and that advisory board and firefighters are looking to do all of this, I'm learning it, thank goodness, but there may be others at other institutions who don't have somebody sitting here. So this notion of the allowable, this notion of if it's archived, how do you bring it back? Oh, we'll just do local needs.
Yeah, I think we all are going to, and this is just my own feeling, I think we're all going to be challenged. Our institutions are going to be challenged. I hope that rather than for administrative expediency to arrive at a numerical total, that we use good instructional integrity questions to review curriculum and make what's are going to be hard choices, but make informed hard choices that still provide the instruction that our students need in order to be competent, effective, and safe in the workplace.
Then that means that the driver of that should be looking at learning outcomes and student SLOs.
That's right.
To get to the point where the industry requirements are met, and you have to go down to that to select which courses should or should not be in the curriculum based on industry input and those learning outcomes.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, that said, I want to be realistic.
Sure.
For a moment, and acknowledge that we've had instructional specialists come together in teams and pick perhaps a higher range or a higher semester credit
Certainly.
hour
Sure.
than maybe pedagogic. It's not unsound, but
Right.
they might be able to pick a lower range and still be pedagogically sound. Using the lecture lab combinations available. So
Right.
I think what we're going to see in our upcoming workshops is instructional specialists getting together and saying, we know we said that should be a 4 semester credit hour only. Now that we're, being forced into facing a different reality, we believe we can still do it in an
Right.
instructional sound way and lower these
Right.
hours, because
Look at the lecture lab configuration and
I think we're going to see that. I think we've had a lot of leeway, and faculty have said, we need to keep that at 4 or whatever, because there was not that cap on it.
Right.
But now, when we start seeing those changes, it won't necessarily mean that they're unsound.
Right.
It may mean just another layer of realism.
But
Joyce
again,
put it very well.
yeah, I agree. Joyce, I think,
And in looking at this course, one of the things that may have happened with this course is they archived the 5 credit hour course because there was no offering of it. It was
no
never
usage.
offered.
No frequency.
Right.
Frequency, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, frequency, yes.
Yep.
And so they may have just said, well, everybody's using a 4 credit hour version of
Right.
it, but now because of other compelling reasons,
Right.
the 60-hour rule,
Right.
people may come back
Right.
and say, well,
Right.
we're going to adjust
Right.
curriculum based on that.
And I think a lot of the instructional specialists, all of us that have been facilitators, we see that they're coming with a clear mind and understanding what the needs across the state. We're seeing more of those ranges be narrowed to the right amount. I mean, I think everybody can speak to that present here today, that we've had some really good workshops where they said, this is ridiculous. We need to go ahead and get them to a livable and workable range that meets the students, the student learning outcomes. So it's getting better. Every workshop, that I've been to lately, it seems like they're on top of that range.
Question, Mr. Chair. Based on the fact that I know we've just changed the protocols to take out a number of triggers that we thought maybe should not be there. However, we've just discussed a trigger that's not there. And that is the fact that the coordinating board rules have changed that will impact all of our programs on a statewide basis. That is not exactly related to industry, not exactly related to emerging technologies. However, we do know that those changes will trigger conversations in which courses will have to be changed as welcome. Also, when we're looking at the new TSI rules that state a college level course cannot be a prerequisite for another college level course, whereas with the welcome courses, we have a range of 1 to 2 could be intermediate and or introductory level, and we have prerequisites to that. Course descriptions may need to have some embedded statements that talks about advanced skills may be required, so colleges can then have those college level courses that are definitely required prerequisites for another college level courses, which has nothing to do with the list of triggers that we may have just had. So I know we're about time, but I'm asking. I know the vote has been carried and motion has been passed, but I think we need to leave ourselves some flexibility when it comes to rules that have changed that are going to impact the field and that we're going to need to respond very quickly and have those be workshops that we may have to do or conversations that may be online that we may have to do. So I know Chair and Chair-elect, some of this is going to come under your reign, Don, as a Chair-elect, since the rule is a 2015, but TSI is this fall.
Right.
I know Kirk had a comment, but before you start, I know that we are still going to be operating the page, the WECM page with comments coming from the field. So some of that we're going to have to address. We're going to see a barrage of comments coming to the project staff is going to be looking at that. But just wanted to mention that we're still going to get those comments, and your point
we just
is...
removed the statement for trigger of comments out of the WECM.
However, I
don't want it to be comments.
Yeah, it's not comments, it's what did they tell us.
Yes.
Yeah. And it may be that the reality of reducing means we need to review the learning outcomes for the course, see how we could maybe revise or change those and reduce the semester credit hours. The pressure may be so much that we have to get more flexible. You're right.
Right.
Kurt, you had a comment?
I just want to clarify language. This has happened twice now today where we've talked about archiving a version of the course. We don't archive versions of the courses. We revise courses and may add or subtract an hour range. But when we archive a course, we archive all versions of the course. So
thank you.
Just wanted that. And do we want to add something?
No.
Too late for that?
That'll be for
wait and see.
Okay, any other new business? I have a couple of items, just, you know.
Next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting, we want to set dates. Also, I know I talked to Jeff today about the lunch process. You know, it's costly to have lunch here, so we need to make sure we understand. I don't know how we're going to cover the cost for today, because our cost was higher than
what we brought in.
What we brought in.
Yes.
So we need to address that, because this is not the first time that's happened. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the reimbursement rate for lunch?
It's 12, isn't it?
Well,
So not only was it the overall cost of the project higher, the cost to the individuals was higher than will be reimbursed.
Right.
And so that's a problem, yeah.
Yeah, and the issue is that we have members that don't show up, and we expect them to be here. So that's part of the problem.
would it offend you all if we did a poll and you let us know if not, you would be here? Because we could do that, a doodle poll.
No.
Like the day we have to order, the day before we have to order food.
Right.
Because we really didn't have an idea as to how many people were going to be here.
Yeah. So we based on the number that would be here.
Okay.
Sure.
So you'll get a poll prior to the next meeting, and we'll take care of this one way or the other.
Well, again, my personal sense is I realize that we're only allowed to receive reimbursement up to a certain limit. And so if it cost me $15 and I'm only reimbursed $12, I literally eat the other $3.
You did eat it.
But
Okay.
I always
All right,
figure
so,
I'm going to eat anyway, and you paid for part of my meal, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. You just have to justify it in your own mind that, that it's not going to pay for the cost.
My comment only had with making a note that the reimbursement rate's outdated. I just wanted to comment on it.
Gotcha.
It's.
I have a question. While we're on housekeeping expense reports, that's all changed, I'm assuming. Should we be expecting those reports in the mail to be for our travel arrangements?
We'll get the expense reports to you, and then we'll ask you to submit actual receipts back to us. Yes.
Terry, thank you. I had that on my list of items. Some people are asking me receipts. Jeff and Faye told me that those will also be mailed to you, the receipts for today's meal. So those will be coming out. Okay, the next item that I have is regarding the meeting dates. Now, a couple of you have talked to me beyond the next meeting date because schedules are getting tight.
Yep.
We need to talk beyond the next meeting. So we need to look at our calendars and see what we can do to schedule beyond the January.
When is the next meeting?
The next meeting? First, yes.
When is our program of study meeting in February?
Have we set that date yet? The January meeting for program of study is on January 22nd for the Program of Study Advisory Committee.
That's what
we haven't said.
That's what we're working on right now.
We haven't set a date
No,
yet.
is it January?
Yeah.
Is it? I need to know at least what month I'm looking at.
January right now because of all the work we have to do with the model tools and getting the web page out. So we're shooting for January.
Okay, if we're going to have our programs of study meeting on January the 22nd, I would hate to ask you all to come in consecutive weeks. But if that's what you want to do, that's fine with me. I'm not. What does January look like anyway?
January meeting for this committee, yes.
We need to throw out dates?
Well,
Hey, what about January 27th?
Must be a fan of Garfield. Garfield.
There's a coordinating board meeting on the 20th.
Right.
TACTE board meeting is
24th, yeah.
Friday on 31st.
31st?
TACE. Oh, no, that would be fine.
I'm not sure who may be attending WDI. Yeah, that's from the 29th through the 1st.
17th? I can't.
No, yeah, those are tough days. Yeah, Fridays are.
Yeah, that's the first week of classes
Today.
for the spring semester.
Look at
That's always,
Wednesday.
it's just tough.
Let's do a Wednesday. Everybody's here on a Wednesday.
Okay.
So let's just pick any Wednesday.
What is the first Wednesday in February? The
Yeah,
5th?
the 5th.
How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Got it.
Okay, so
Just as a question, Deana posed that question generally, but do we still need to do any task group work?
Yeah,
Because normally what we've been doing is the task group meets the day before the leadership committee.
Yeah. So we would come in on the 4th for
past group.
4th and the 5th.
So I
Is
guess
that
the
okay?
answer to my question is already answered. We
Yes.
need a task group meeting.
Oh, I think we do. We really do this time.
Okay.
Especially to look at all the documents that
Look
are
at
going
the
to be sent.
documents
Right.
and
Yes.
again, sort of position
Okay.
ourselves.
So the 4th and 5th is going to be, the task group will meet on the 4th, the 5th is this committee, the WECM Leadership Committee.
And that's going to be here.
Same location.
Yeah, the 5th will
So
be here. in the boardroom.
Duane will need to we need to find out whether in fact this is available on.
Sure.
Okay.
when, task group, look at all the documents. What documents?
Well, we'll have the nomination form that's going to be automated.
I'd
We'll
like to
also-
go ahead and look at the whole workshop process and bring.
On that date.
Yeah, I think we need to look at the PowerPoint again. We need to get the
Yep.
cluster review into the PowerPoint. We need to review those workshop tools. And, Faye, that's something you
Need to do.
want us to do with you, I think.
well-
Plus, they need updating. So, I mean, it's not just to bring you up to speed, but it's also to update those materials. That facilitator agenda, the facilitator meeting agenda.
All of that will be,
Yeah.
taken
Okay.
care of. I know we had some comments from the last meeting in August the 7th, especially on the tools,
Right.
the workshop tools. There were some comments that came back, so I think we have them in our notes, so we need to
I
review
know there was
those.
something on the
We can bring
verb
those-
list. Came in. Yeah.
So we
need
can
to do
bring
that.
those on the board.
That may be just one person saying, I won't understand on here.
Yes, we're gonna try to do the one following February, so we'll discuss that one. Okay, so 4th and 5th, we're done with those two. Now, we want to try to set up at least tentative dates for the next meetings, because, again, it's just an issue with the schedules for all of us.
The next meeting prior,
After the
oh, okay. Okay.
after the February.
Okay.
Are we having them quarterly?
We have 4 meetings during the
Yes.
year, so we
Right.
need one right before we have the workshops, wouldn't you think?
April?
That's what I was saying in April.
The latter part of April? If Mondays are bad days for many of you, and I know they are, Monday is not a good day. What about Wednesday, the 3rd week of April? 16th.
TACTE or something? Not TACTE?
When is TACE?
When is TACE?
TACTE is the week before.
When is TACE?
First week, this would be the 3rd week, would it not? This is the 3rd week.
2 weeks of work.
Yes.
We'll be here 3 weeks in a row in Austin.
Okay, what about the last week of April is kind of tough because you're getting into finals.
Too
and-
late.
Too late. How about the 16th? Can you handle that? That would be the 15th and the 16th, a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Task group, the 15th.
Get your taxes done before then.
So we're still looking at 2 days here,
Yep.
15 and 16.
Yep.
And if at the next meeting you all declare that that's not necessary, then we can do something else.
At least we have it in our
Okay, now then let's move to August. And you had it on August the 7th. We have to have it pretty early if we're going to have it in August, and July is not a good time for most people. The 4th WECM leadership meeting. What date?
The 3rd.
The 3rd, does that come in the middle of the week?
Meeting.
Yeah, the 3rd. No, this would be the 4th meeting.
Yes, this will be the fourth meeting.
Oh, yes, this would be the 4th meeting in the fiscal year.
What would the first Wednesday of that month look like? It'd be the 6th.
That'd be the 6th.
The 5th and 6th then?
August.
Yep.
Okay. You feel tired already?
All right, already.
Yes.
Does that work for everybody?
That'll be good, though. Just set up
5th and
hotels.
6th, August?
At this point,
Okay, so at least we have tentative dates for everybody. Work on your schedule. I don't have any other items on my to-do here. We're getting close to the end of the day here. Anybody else have any other?
Times for the meetings, still the same times, 9:30 to 2:30?
And the task group
That
meets
allows
at
you to drop in.
10 to 5.
10 to 5. Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn if we have no
Got
other
it.
business?
I so move.
Second.
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.